Hi everyone, please subscribe to my channel. Blood Immortal Venerable, see playlist for other chapters and novels. Join now our Telegram channel now and enjoy exclusive early access. t.me/blood_immortal_official. I do not translate the novels. Credits goes to original translator and author of the novel. I only make it as an audiobook so it would be easier to just listen while doing other things. Credits goes to the author of the novel. I convert stories to audiobook for mental health, for multitasking purpose, for accessibility and time saving. Listening to audiobook is also beneficial for people who have disability. It improves our listening skills and improve our English comprehension, vocabulary and other things. So, thank you for listening. Thank you and thank you very much for your support. Chapter 981 Pass Token, Voice in the Dojo. As time went by, the number of divine medicines in the medicine garden became less and less, and they were gradually picked up by the true monarchs. Soon, the last magical medicine also fell into the hands of the true monarchs. The battle of the medicine garden was temporarily over, but it was not the real end. Swish, a Ming Zhenjin flew towards the outside world, seemingly not ready to explore other areas of the dojo. There must be more opportunities and treasures inside the dojo, but these true monarchs dare not continue to explore, for fear that if they fight, these true monarchs will become cannon fodder. This time, they obtained some magical medicines and were very satisfied. Therefore, they are in a hurry to get out of here. However, they underestimated the greed of other true monarchs. After these true monarchs left, another group of powerful true monarchs and the few true monarch list true monarchs also followed. Obviously, these powerful true monarchs are eyeing the magic medicine on these true monarchs and want to hunt down these true monarchs. A fight is coming. Yi Tian and several other half-step true ancestors disdain to hunt down other true monarchs, otherwise their reputation will be affected if they spread it out. Moreover, they have obtained a large amount of magic medicine, and there is no shortage of magic medicine, so there is no need to snatch the magic medicine. If he really disregarded his identity, Yi Tian would not have agreed to share the magic medicine before, but chose to directly occupy the medicine garden. Obviously, many true monarchs will fall. I got 29,588 magical medicines this time, which is a little less than expected. Yi Tian checked his magical medicine and secretly said. Originally, he estimated that he could obtain more than 30,000 magical medicines, but that was the ideal result. But in fact, as more and more true monarchs poured into the medicine garden, the magical medicine he obtained naturally did not have that many. Of course, 29,588 magical medicines are already a huge wealth, far exceeding the total worth of ordinary true ancestors, and some poor Taoist ancestors may not ignore this wealth. The biggest chance is inside the dojo. No matter how precious the magic medicine is, it will only shorten the training time, and it will not allow people to be promoted to the true ancestor or Taoist ancestor. Yi Tian thought to himself. There are not a few true monarchs who have the same idea as Yi Tian, and these true monarchs also set their sights on the inner area of the dojo. The medicine garden is located inside the dojo, and there is a passage leading directly to other areas of the dojo, but the medicine garden is an important place after all, so it is still separated by the prohibition. If you want to enter other areas, you must break the ban, otherwise you will not be able to enter other areas of the dojo. The prohibition between the medicine garden and other areas is far from knowing the dojo defense formation on the periphery of the field, but the prohibition here is not too weak. Even though the passage of time and the lack of management of the dojo have resulted in a slight weakening of the dojo prohibition, it has not weakened too much. Boom! True monarch Luo Hai and several other half-step true ancestors tried to attack the restriction, but they did not break the restriction. At this time, the expressions of several half-step true ancestors and many true monarchs changed. If they can't break the ban, they can't enter the dojo, and they can't get the chance in the dojo. The dojo in the ruins of the battlefield is either intact and cannot be entered at all, or it is destroyed, and the opportunities and treasures in it have long been wiped out by the winner of the original battle. Only one space crack is opened like this, and there are not many dojos that are generally intact. This is an opportunity to obtain the inheritance of Taoist ancestors. If you can't grasp such an opportunity, it would be a pity. Seeing this, Yi Tian also stepped forward to attack the ban, trying to open the passage to other areas of the dojo, but after attacking, he couldn't break the ban. He estimated that even if he did his best and cooperated with other true monarchs, he would not be able to break the restriction. The dojo is the site of the Taoist ancestors, and the restrictions here are arranged by the Taoist ancestors, and non-true monarchs can break them. The true monarchs pondered for a while, and now there are only two ways. One is to ask the true monarchs who are good at prohibition to try to decipher the formation. This method may not work. After all, this is the formation arranged by the Taoist ancestor. Even if the Taoist is not good at prohibition, it is difficult to crack. The second is to find the access token of the dojo. There must be more than one Taoist ancestor in the dojo. There must be other disciples or servants. For example, if there are disciples or servants who need to manage the medicine garden, they must have access tokens, otherwise they will not be able to enter. Do you have to ask Daozu to open the ban? It can be said that as long as there is a pass token, the ban can be opened. When the war started, the people in this dojo must have participated, and even tried to escape, so there were definitely people who fell to the outside world. So there must be a few such pass tokens to be found, but it takes luck. Of course, such a pass token can only open the ban in the general area of the dojo, and in some relatively secret places, the pass token is also useless. Then, as long as you can open the ban here, that's enough. Time passed, and a Ming Zhenjin left, but Yi Tian and several other half-step ancestors did not leave. Wanfa Daozi, the restriction here can't be opened, won't Daozi leave? Asked true monarch Luohai. Someone should get the pass token here, I might as well wait, I really can't leave. Yi Tian said with a smile. All right, true monarch Luohai nodded slightly and stopped asking. 2 days. In the blink of an eye, a month has passed. 280. However, several half-step true ancestors still did not leave, but another half-step true ancestor came, and it seemed that they were not ready to leave. At this moment, true monarch Luohai couldn't help it. Forget it, everyone, I have a pass token on me, which should be able to open the restriction here and enter other areas of the dojo. True monarch Luohai said, Luohai Zhenjin, you can really bear it, it seems that you want us all to leave, so that we can enter other areas of the dojo alone. Another half-step true ancestor sneered. True monarch Luohai did not respond, but he really had this idea. It's a pity that many people don't leave at all, they just have to wait here, otherwise, he will not reveal the pass token in his hand. After all, his time was precious and he didn't want to waste it. Immediately, Luohai Jun took out the pass token. Boom, the pass token controls the ban and easily opens the ban. Brush, true monarch Luohai was the first to enter, and the others followed. When everyone entered, they came to an unfamiliar environment. There are buildings here, and they are standing on the fertile ground, with the medicine garden behind them. At this moment, a voice resounded in everyone's ears, making everyone's expressions change. Outsiders, hello, Chapter 982 The Spirit of Chelong Dojo, Zhang. Who, several half-step true ancestors and many true monarchs were shocked and prepared for battle one by one. Even Yi Tian was extremely dignified. His consciousness continued to probe around, but nothing was found. Everyone knows very well that before entering this dojo, no one else should have come in. But now, someone transmits a voice to them, what does this mean? Could it be that some domain experts have survived until now? People thought so. It's not impossible. At their level of cultivation, their lifespan is almost infinite. Of course, there is still a lifespan limit, but this lifespan limit is too long, and very few creatures can get the day when they die. The universe transformed by this domain fragment is relatively young, and considering the situation of the ruins, the time when the domain is broken is not very far away, so once someone escapes the pursuit, if the domain fragment arrives, then it will still be a problem. It's possible to survive forever. But, from the birth of the ruins to the present, coupled with the random evolution of the domain into the universe, there has been no strong presence. Therefore, in the hearts of many true monarchs, the creatures of the domain ruins should be wiped out. But now, a voice appeared in this relic, which made their previous guesses seem wrong. And Yi Tian thought more. If someone really lived to the present and avoided the disaster of the domain's demise, it means that there may be terrifying powerhouses hidden in the many ruins of the domain, and even the Taoist ancestors. In the cold jade coffin I obtained before, is the woman in it alive or dead? What if it is alive? Yi Tian guessed suddenly, but he didn't conjecture too much in this regard, because the things in front of him were more important. Many true monarchs did not advance, but retreated. If they really encountered dangerous things, they would evacuate here as soon as possible. Boom, the power of heaven and earth shakes. In an instant, a large amount of the power of heaven and earth turned into a figure, the figure gradually became clear, and it turned into an old man. Seeing this old man, everyone was extremely vigilant, but they quickly saw the truth of this old man. Spirit, Yi Tian also recognized it. This old man is not a real creature, but a kind of spirit similar to a tool spirit and an array spirit. Let me introduce first, the old man is the spirit of this dojo. You can call me Zhang. The old man introduced himself. Zhang, why didn't you show up in the medicine garden before, but when we came in, you suddenly appeared? Zhenjin Luohai asked. Zhang smiled and said, strictly speaking, the medicine garden has left the dojo. Although the old man is the spirit of the dojo, he can't control the medicine garden. Moreover, not all places in the dojo can be controlled by the old man. Not even an old man can get in. When Jian Zhang didn't do anything, many true monarchs gradually relaxed their vigilance and began to ask questions one after another, but Zhang didn't bother and answered them seriously. At this time, Yi Tian also asked a more crucial question. Elder Zhang, I wonder if anyone in the dojo survived. The question of Yi Tian also attracted the attention of others. They are also very concerned about this question. It is not that they do not want to ask, but they are worried that once they ask, they will get bad news. So, they have been hesitant to ask this question, but they didn't expect Yi Tian to ask. Zhang hesitated for a few seconds, the atmosphere seemed to freeze, and everyone was nervous. Suddenly, Zhang sighed and said, actually, the old man doesn't know either. In a big battle that day, the master of the dojo led many disciples and strong dojos to meet the enemy. Soon after, the news of the death of the master of the dojo came, and a new enemy came. Other people in the dojo fled one after another. As for whether they survived in the end, the old man does not know. Yi Tian didn't know if what Zhang said was true, but even if Zhang lied, there was nothing they could do. But at least one thing can be confirmed, that is, the threat of the dojo ruins should not be too great, otherwise Zhang would not have told them so much. If you really want to be detrimental to them, and if the power gap between the two sides is huge, Zhang can just do it directly, there is no need to explain anything. Elder Zhang, true monarch Luohai was also a little more polite, addressing the other party with Lao Zhang, and said, since this dojo ruin has no owner, can we obtain the treasures and opportunities here? Zhang nodded and said, of course it is possible. At the beginning, those disciples were more anxious to escape. Although they still took some things, they also left a lot of things. You can naturally take these opportunities and treasures. However, I hope you don't destroy the buildings and things here. After all, this is the place where the old live, and it is also the home of the old. Yes, we promise not to spoil this place. Many true monarchs responded. Afterwards, with Zhang's introduction, everyone gradually came to know what opportunities this dojo had. This dojo is a dojo named Chelong Daozu. The Chelong Dojo has 4 major opportunities: the Yanwuchang, the Daofa Pavilion, the Chelong Pond and the Heavenly Soul Tree. These are the 4 treasures that can be developed and controlled by Zhang. You can get in there to get a chance. In addition to these 4 treasures, Chelong Dojo itself has many secret realms, but with the fragmentation of the domain, the connection between many secret realms and Chelong Dojo was interrupted, and currently only one secret realm is still under the control of Chelong Dojo. As for the situation inside this secret realm, Zhang, the spirit of the dojo, is not very clear, because Zhang only controls the situation in the dojo, and the secret realm is not inside the dojo, but only has a connection with the dojo. In addition, there are 2 other places that no one can enter. One is the residence of the master of the dojo, the Chelong Pagoda. The Chelong Pagoda is definitely the greatest treasure of opportunity in the dojo, but even Zhang has no way to enter it. The restrictions there can even compete with the weaker Daozu. These true monarchs, who have not even stepped into the true ancestor, naturally cannot break the prohibition and enter the Chelong Pagoda. Dragon Tower. The second forbidden area is the Red Dragon Valley. The Chelong Valley is the residence of a Chelong, and this Chelong is also the mount of Chelong Daozu. Chelong Daozu encountered this Chelong when he was very weak, and with its power, he rose step by step, so he had it. The name of Chelong Daozu, and this red dragon was also promoted to the ranks of Daozu with the help of Chelong Daozu. It can be said that Chelong Road Ancestor has 2 Dao Ancestor powerhouses. Therefore, Chelong Valley is also one of the forbidden places in the dojo, and even Zhang has no money to enter. But everyone knows very well that the Chelong Pagoda and Chelong Valley are definitely the biggest opportunities for this dojo, but they have no way to enter it, and they have nothing to do. It can even be said that if Zhang did not help them, they would not even be able to enter many buildings. Just when many true monarchs were looking forward to entering the dojo buildings one by one to obtain those opportunities, Yi Tian pondered for a long time. Strange, the dojo spirit is a powerful strength, but it can definitely control those restrictions. If he comes in, even if Hai Zhenjin has a pass token, it is estimated that he will not be able to enter. He helps these Zhenjin so much, the purpose what is it? Yi Tian is not suspicious, but feels that the spirit of the dojo is not good for him. He doesn't believe that someone will be selfless. Isn't Ling not afraid that these true monarchs will notify other powerhouses and eventually demolish the dojo? Therefore, Yi Tian predicts that the spirit of this dojo may have other plans, but it can't be seen at present. Chapter 983 Inheritance of Taoism. Afterwards, Zhang of Chelong Dojo opened the prohibition of buildings, allowing true monarchs and half-step true ancestors to enter without any restrictions. Swish! A Ming Zhenjin went crazy and rushed to those buildings at the fastest speed in order to seek internal opportunities. Seeing this scene, true monarch Luohai couldn't bear it any longer. He wouldn't care about any conspiracy or not. Moreover, several half-step true ancestors thought that their strength was very strong. Even if there were some conspiracies, a little attention was enough to survive the catastrophe. In addition, for the sake of some opportunities, it is worth taking a little risk. You can't give up such a big opportunity because of inexplicable dangers and conspiracies. When the dojo is opened, a large number of true monarchs will arrive soon, so this is the only period when they have an advantage, and naturally they must obtain benefits and opportunities as quickly as possible. Among them, most of the true monarchs rushed to the four treasures, namely the Yanwuchang, the Daofa Pavilion, the Chelong Pond and the Heavenly Soul Tree. But soon, many true monarchs lost interest in the martial arts field. It's not that the martial arts field is bad, in fact, the chance of the martial arts field is great. The martial arts field is a huge training square. If you practice in the martial arts field, you can get a huge increase, and you can also obtain some secret techniques from the void of the martial arts field from time to time. Moreover, the martial arts field can calm people's minds, and there is almost no such thing as going crazy. However, the advantage of the martial arts field is that it is sustainable in long term, and many true monarchs are now pursuing great opportunities in a short period of time, so the martial arts field is not good for them. If the ruins of the future battlefield were completely controlled by the Quandao realm, then the martial arts field would be enough to become an unimaginable treasure. But now, everyone is not interested in the martial arts field. The three treasures of Daofa Pavilion, Chelong Pond and Heavenly Soul Tree are really exciting. The Daofa Pavilion contains at least 10 avenues of Taoism inheritance, hundreds of true ancestors inheritance, and many secret techniques inheritance. After entering the Taoist Pavilion, everyone has an opportunity to obtain inheritance, which is an opportunity to obtain inheritance for free, and does not require contribution. Contribution degree is a setting of Chelong Dojo. Every disciple here has a contribution degree, which can be exchanged for inheritance, and even the inheritance of Taoism. And if you enter the Taoist Pavilion for the first time, you can only get one kind of inheritance at random. As for what kind of inheritance you get, it depends on luck. Yi Tian was also very interested in the inheritance of the Taoist Pavilion, so he came here immediately and entered the Taoist Pavilion. Boom! In the inheritance void of Dao Fa CJFI Pavilion, Yi Tian is like standing under the dark starry sky, looking at the light spots in the void, and each light spot is an inheritance. Under the investigation of divine consciousness, there is no way that something is different, as if these light spots are exactly the same, so it is not clear what inheritance this light spot corresponds to. I hope I can get a great Taoist inheritance, then I will make a lot of money. Yi Tian said with anticipation. Taoism is a powerful technique that surpasses the original divine power, and it is also the perfect combination of Tao and Tao power. Strictly speaking, only Taoist ancestors can practice Taoism, and the true ancestors have almost no way to obtain Taoism. Taoism is different from the original supernatural power. It is a skill that can be passed down, but Taoism is too rare, and ordinary Taoist ancestors cannot create a Taoism. Only the top Taoist ancestors have the confidence to create a Taoism. And Taoism must be cultivated to the perfect state before it can create inheritance, otherwise it cannot be passed on to others at all. However, Taoism is inherently very advanced. Even if Taoism is obtained, the general Taoist is not sure to cultivate it to the perfect state. Most Taoist masters at most 1 or 2 Taoism, and can only cultivate it to the realm of small success. As a result, quite a number of newly promoted Taoist ancestors did not even have the inheritance of Taoism, so they could not master Taoism. Even the newly promoted Taoist ancestors have no Taoism, let alone the true ancestors. At the very least, Yi Tian had never heard of any true ancestor in the Zhuxian lineage who had obtained Taoism. Even if he obtained it secretly, it would be extremely difficult for the true ancestor to practice Taoism. Because of this, the value of Taoism is great. But the Dao Fa Pavilion has a whole 10 Dao technique inheritance, which shocked him too much. It can be said that the top forces in the chaos are not as big as the Qilong Dojo. Beyond the realm of the Wei, the Taoist ancestors also learned that there was a Taoist inheritance in the battlefield ruins, and many weak Taoist ancestors were excited. These Taoist ancestors did not have the inheritance of Taoism, but there were so many Taoist inheritances in the battlefield ruins. Once they obtained one or more Taoist inheritances, their strength could increase significantly. Therefore, they were excited and could not wait to enter the battlefield ruins immediately. On the other hand, Zushin Daozu, the top Taoist ancestor, although he also wanted to acquire some Taoist inheritance to increase his strength, he did not have much interest in Taoist inheritance. After all, they all practice Taoism, and there are more than one. They haven't fully understood the Taoism they have cultivated, and naturally they are not interested in practicing other Taoisms. But it has to be said that with the passage of time, there will be more and more inheritances, and the value of battlefield relics is far beyond their imagination. Once the opportunity to fully exploit the ruins of the battlefield, the strength of the major forces will usher in a period of skyrocketing. Yi Tian didn't study too much, grabbed a spot of light and obtained an inheritance. True ancestor inheritance. Yi Tian sensed it and smiled. Although it is not the inheritance of Taoism, it is also very good to be able to obtain the inheritance of the true ancestor. He even suspects that there is no way to obtain the inheritance of Taoism with free opportunities, otherwise the inheritance of Taoism would be too easy to obtain. In his opinion, if you want to obtain the inheritance of Taoism, you need to join the Qilong Dojo, and then get a huge amount of contribution, then there is hope. And with the destruction of Qilong Dojo, this route will definitely not work, then only to break through the Taoist pavilion and forcibly obtain the inheritance of Taoism, but in that case, it is undoubtedly courting death. The inheritance of the true ancestor obtained by Yi Tian is not bad. It is the inheritance of the true ancestor in the later stage of the Great Tao. It contains various secret techniques and cultivation techniques of the other party. It has a great reference for Yi Tian, as one of the strongest heritage of the human race. Next, Yi Tian came to the Heavenly Soul Tree. The Heavenly Soul Tree is a place of great opportunity in the Qilong Dojo. The Heavenly Soul Tree is a treasure tree with as many as 100,000 Heavenly Soul holy fruits. You can get a Heavenly Soul sacred fruit. The Heavenly Soul holy fruit can raise one's comprehension to a terrifying level within a period of time, and the Divine Soul will experience the feeling of eternity passing by, and can spend 10,000 years in a short period of time. Therefore, taking a Heavenly Soul sacred fruit can cultivate supernatural powers or secret techniques, and can easily master a secret technique. It's a pity that the Heavenly Soul sacred fruit can only be taken one in a lifetime, and if you take more, it will be useless. Yi Tian came under the Heavenly Soul Tree, picked a Heavenly Soul fruit. He prepared to benefit the Heavenly Soul cultivation technique. I became the real function preparatory peak. Chapter 984 Preparing the Peak Master, the Division of the Domain Forces. Martial Arts Arena. Yi Tian came here and was going to take the Heavenly Soul fruit here, so that he could utilize the power of the Heavenly Soul fruit to the greatest extent, so as to gain more promotion. In the martial arts field, Yi Tian's comprehension has been improved, and the Heavenly Soul fruit has once again improved Yi Tian's comprehension, and let Yi Tian's soul instantly enter the passage of 10,000 years. The training has officially started. At this time, Yi Tian was comprehending the Black Wind Territory technique, and the originally obscure Black Wind Territory technique was comprehended little by little with the help of the Heavenly Soul fruit, Yi Tian's own comprehension, transcendental talent, and the aid of the martial arts field. Only 10 days have passed from the outside world, and Yi Tian, with the assistance of the Heavenly Soul fruit, seems to have cultivated for 10,000 years, and it is 10,000 years of high-speed cultivation. The Black Wind Domain Boundary technique has been completed directly. Yi Tian rejoiced. If he hadn't borrowed the Heavenly Soul fruit, he didn't know how many years it would have taken him to comprehend the Black Wind Domain martial arts to the perfect state, but now he has succeeded in just 10 days. Not only that, he has also cultivated the 9 techniques of soul refinement to the level of the 8th technique, which is only one step away from the highest 9th technique. The 8th method of soul refinement 9 art compresses Yi Tian's soul many times. Just like the qualitative change, the defense of the soul is much stronger, and the potential has increased a lot, but the total amount of soul has not increased much. After all, the 9 techniques of soul refinement is only a test secret technique, not a real cultivation technique, so it cannot greatly increase the total amount of Yi Tian's divine soul. Strictly speaking, Yi Tian's spirit realm has not improved, but the quality has improved many times. After the completion of the Black Wind Territory Boundary technique, Yi Tian reconcentrated the master command of the Black Wind Mountain. Soon, he he completely refined Haifeng Mountain's master command and became the real Haifeng Mountain's reserve master. Boom! The leader of Haifeng Mountain took Yi Tian's consciousness across the layers of space and came to a certain inheritance space in the inheritance place of Haifeng Mountain. Here, Yi Tian obtained the inheritance and some authority of the Haifeng Mountain preliminary peak master. At this time, Yi Tian knew what rights and benefits Haifeng Mountain's reserve peak master had. First of all, he can enter the inheritance space and browse a large number of secret art books. All the books under the authority of the preparatory peak master can be browsed for free. Only the books with the peak master and higher authority, he is not qualified to view. But even so, Yi Tian gained too many benefits. With the help of the classics of the Black Wind Mountain, he can completely increase his background indefinitely, so as to create a real cultivation method for himself. Moreover, he can also learn some truly powerful secret techniques that belong to the reserve peak masters of Haifeng Mountain. All in all, the Haifeng Mountain reserve peak master has gained too many benefits. The space for classics and books of the Haifeng Mountain heritage. Looking at the countless books here, Yi Tian wished he could spend hundreds of millions of years here, but when he thought that he still had a lot of things to do, he didn't plan to stay here any longer. Shu Ling, come out! Yi Tian called out. He learned from the inheritance information that the Haifeng Mountain inheritance classic space has a book spirit, and the book spirit can manage the books here. He didn't know whether the original war would annihilate the book spirits here, but if he thought about it carefully, it should be impossible, otherwise this book space should not exist. Wow! A white book appeared out of thin air, and a villain appeared on it. It was the book spirit. Preliminary Peak Master Yi Tian, hello! Shuling respectfully said. Seeing Shuling, Yi Tian immediately asked, Shuling, is there any information about other forces here? Some, Shuling replied. Immediately, the book spirit gave Yi Tian a book, which was general information about other forces in the domain. From this book, Yi Tian roughly knew the composition of the forces in the domain. The forces of the domain are divided into the lower 3 layers of heaven, the middle 3 layers of heaven and the upper 3 layers of heaven, a total of 9 layers of heaven. The first power, the weakest, must have a true ancestor, the second power must have a top true ancestor and more than 10 true ancestors, and the third power must have an ordinary Taoist and hundreds of true ancestors. For example, the Heavenly Ape sect seems to be very powerful, but in fact it is only a second-level force, and it is a very weak force in the domain. It can be seen from this that the power of the middle and upper third layers is so powerful, but the power introduction here does not explain too much about the powers of the middle and upper third layers. Obviously, these are relatively high-level secrets. Shu Ling, is there any introduction to Chelong Dojo? Yi Tian asked again. Yes. Shu Ling nodded. Soon after, Shu Ling took out a very thin and ancient book and sent it to Yi Tian. There are very few introductions about the Chelong Dojo above, because the Chelong Dojo is not a real power, it is just a dojo for an elder of the third-level power. This elder is naturally the Chelong Daozu. But after Yi Tian looked up this book, his expression suddenly became cloudy. The reason is that Chelong Daozu's reputation is very bad. If he hadn't been blessed by the power of the middle 3 heavens, he didn't know how many powerful Daozu had killed him. For flowers, the reason why Chelong Daozu has a bad reputation is because he controls many geniuses and makes these geniuses serve him, and the way he controls geniuses is Chelongqi. Chelongqi is indeed a treasure land, but Chelongqi is to transform geniuses. While transforming geniuses, there will be a special force that invades the souls of geniuses and slowly makes them loyal to Chelong Daozu. However, Chelong Daozu is also very knowledgeable and will not provoke the forces of the middle and upper third layers of heaven, but only dares to provoke some loose cultivators or geniuses of the lower third layer of heaven. Originally, the strength of Chelong Daozu was nothing in the domain, and he was not eligible to get the attention of Haifeng Mountain, but what Chelong Daozu really attracted the attention of the outside world was that he had a true ancestor monarch in his hand, all of which were the true ancestor of genius achievement. 0. Combined with the strength of Chelong Daozu, this true ancestor army is enough to surround Daozu, who is much stronger than him. But Haifeng's classics do not give him a high evaluation. It can be seen that Haifeng doesn't care about a Chelong Daozu, which indirectly shows the strength of Haifeng. At the very least, Yi Tian knew how strong Haifeng Mountain was, and the 10 kings of Haifeng Mountain were the greatest. Fortunately, I became the reserve peak master of Haifeng Mountain. Otherwise, I would have entered the Chelong Pond without knowing it, and I might have really capsized in the sewer. Yi Tian murmured. He can't guarantee that his copy talent can protect his soul. If he is really controlled, then he will be wronged. As the spirit of Chelong Dojo, Zhang is really uneasy and kind. It is estimated that it wants to control those true monarchs. However, I can take this opportunity to get some benefits. Yi Tian suddenly thought. Immediately, his consciousness returned to his body and walked out of the martial arts field. Then, Yi Tian left the Qilong dojo, leaving only one avatar here. In this way, it is also for the sake of safety. He does not know how much strength Zhang can exert in Qilong dojo. If he exerts a strong strength, it is very dangerous for him to stay here. The incarnation is different, and he will die when he dies, which has no effect on his body. Zhang, come out, Yi Tian's avatar whispered. Zhang didn't come out, it was impossible for anyone to call him out, he had to come out. Zhang, if you don't come out, don't blame me for telling the secret of Qilongqi. Yi Tian said again. Wow, a figure appeared, it was Zhang of Qilong dojo. Chapter 985. 2 Taoist techniques are available. His eyes were so deep that he stared at Yi Tian, and said solemnly, what do you mean by your excellency? Yi Tian didn't panic at all, anyway, he was just an incarnation now, so naturally he wasn't afraid of anything. So, Yi Tian calmly said, Zhang, the Qilong Pond is indeed a treasure land, but the Qilong Pond contains a special energy that can affect the souls of the true monarchs, and even transform and manipulate the souls, thereby transforming the creatures that enter it into one. A special kind of human puppet that is always controlled by yourself. You let the true monarchs enter the Qilong Pond, I am afraid you are trying to control them. I do not know what you're talking about. Zhang's face changed slightly, as if he didn't know anything. But at this time, Yi Tian suddenly said, do you want me to tell the secret of Qilongqi? Do you think others believe it? Who are you, and how do you know the secret of Qilong Pond? Zhang finally changed color and asked. According to his understanding of 280, after the domain was broken, it fell into this unfamiliar territory, which is definitely not the chaotic area before, plus the outside information he collected, the forces here don't know much about the domain. Furthermore, the Qilong dojo is an insignificant force in the realm, and the secrets of the Qilong Pond are not known at all except for the middle and upper third heaven forces. In the battlefield ruins, there are no sect ruins of the middle and upper third heaven forces at all, but there are only some branch relics, and it is unlikely that there is any information about Qilong dojo. What's more, even if there is information about Qilong dojo, it is not available to ordinary people. He was very curious, where did Yi Tian learn about the secret of Qilong Pond? Officially introduce my identity, Haifeng Mountain Preliminary Peak Master, Yi Tian. Yi Tian introduced himself. What? Haifeng Mountain Reserve Peak Master. Zhang's expression changed drastically, he couldn't believe it. Haifeng Mountain's preparatory peak masters seem to be weak, but the potential is too high and too high, even higher than the potential of most Haifeng Mountain peak masters, and his future achievements are at least the top true ancestors, and he is able to compete with the true ancestor of ordinary Taoist ancestors. At the peak of the realm, Haifeng Mountain did not have a few reserve peak masters, and it took a long time for a reserve master to be born. After all, the requirements of Haifeng Mountain and reserve masters are too high, and true geniuses will not choose at all high function, but will choose to join the three heaven forces. Of course, the strength of high function is definitely not weak. Although Zhang is not a real creature, but the spirit of Qilong dojo, he also has a certain understanding of Haifeng Mountain. The strength of Qilong dojo is far less than that of Haifeng Mountain, and even the power of the middle three heavens behind Qilong dojo is far from the same. Antagonist of Montenegro. Black Wind Mountain is a bandit force, and its reputation is not very good in the domain, and it is not classified as a power division. Some people say that Haifeng Mountain is comparable to the 6th level power of the 3rd level power. Some people also say that the Black Wind Mountain is comparable to the 7th level power, which is the upper 3rd level power. As for the true strength of Black Wind Mountain, no one knows. Zhang heard one thing, that is, the sect of the 6th layer of heaven, about to be promoted to the 7th layer of heaven, killed a Taoist ancestor and many true ancestors in Haifeng Mountain. Not long after, this sect was trampled by a group of mysterious powerhouses. It is precisely because of this matter that Black Wind Mountain has become extremely mysterious. If Zhang heard that Haifeng Mountain was preparing for the peak when the domain was still there, he would probably be extremely afraid. But now, Haifeng Mountain has been destroyed long ago. Even if Yi Tian became the peak master of Haifeng Mountain without a big backer, he was naturally not very afraid. But Yi Tian's talent is very high, and his future achievements are naturally high. If he cannot offend, he naturally doesn't want to offend. It's a pity, if this Yi Tian doesn't know the secret of Qilong Pond, he will have the opportunity to control him, then Qilong Dojo will have an extra genius with unlimited potential. Zhang sighed darkly. What do you want to do? Zhang asked. He felt that Yi Tian definitely wanted to negotiate the conditions, otherwise he would not have been notified, but had directly leaked the secret of Chelong Pond. I want the inheritance of the 10 Taoist arts of the Taoist pavilion. Yi Tian made his own request. Impossible. Zhang immediately refused. Taoism inheritance, how is that possible? How high is the value of a Taoist inheritance, and the production of Taoist inheritance requires a lot of rare materials, and there are not many Taoist inheritances in Chelong Dojo, and there is no way to supplement it at present. If you want to create the inheritance of Taoism, you must be a Taoist ancestor who has cultivated a Taoism to the perfect state, and then you can create the inheritance of Taoism. But where does the Chelong Dojo have a Taoist ancestor, let alone cultivate a Taoist technique to the perfect state? Therefore, the inheritance of Taoism in Chelong Dojo is to consume 1 less 1. Yi Tian is going to take away the 10 Taoist inheritances in one breath, which will almost make the Taoist pavilion abolish. If there is no Taoist inheritance, how does he attract geniuses into the dojo, and how does he attract them into the Chelong Pond? Moreover, he was instructed by the Chelong Daozu to strictly manage the Chelong Dojo, and he must not inherit all the 10 Taoist techniques to others, otherwise he would betray the trust of the Chelong Daozu. The inheritance of Taoism uses 1 less and 1 less, and it is impossible to give you all. Zhang solemnly expressed his attitude. Then the inheritance of the 8 doors of Taoism. Yi Tian lowered his requirements. 6 doors, this is the least. Yi Tian gritted his teeth. Don't be delusional, Zhang said coldly. One person and one spirit bargained, and finally Zhang agreed to pay the price of the inheritance of 2 Taoist arts to keep Yi Tian's secret. The inheritance of the 2 Taoist arts is also Zhang's bottom line. If there are more, Zhang will not care about this secret, and the big deal will not control these true monarchs. Yi Tian didn't dare to ask too much, otherwise he wouldn't get anything. As for those true monarchs, what does it have to do with him? Although some true monarchs also came in the Zushan temple, he reminded him a little, but if they didn't listen, they wouldn't blame him. After reaching an agreement, Yi Tian made an oath. Zhang said, "You wait." Zhang was in a bad mood, but he still went to get the inheritance of 2 Taoist arts. These 2 Taoist traditions were selected by Yi Tian. He had already seen the general information on the 10 major Taoist traditions. Although neither of them was a good Taoist, at least 5.8 was a Taoist. Soon, Zhang came back, holding 2 light balls in his hands, which were the inheritance balls of Taoism. Give you. Zhang threw the inheritance ball over, said. Yi Tian caught the inheritance ball and checked with his spiritual sense. After confirming that it was correct, he left with a smile. Outside the dojo, Yi Tian looked at the 2 Taoism inheritance balls in his hand, and couldn't help but smile and said, Daoshu, cutting gold, Taoism, 3-turn golden body, these 2 Taoist arts are of great value, although I can't practice right now. But when I step into the ranks of the true ancestors, there is hope to practice it. Once I practice 2 Tao techniques, my strength will definitely increase. Moreover, once I become the real peak master of Haifeng Mountain, I am afraid that to be able to obtain the inheritance of Taoism. Just when Yi Tian put away the inheritance ball and was about to leave here, a mutation happened. Chapter 986 Tao Ancestor of the Moon. Boom, the sky of the battlefield ruins cracked, and a terrifying breath came. That is not an ordinary breath, but the breath that belongs to Taoist ancestors. However, compared with the real Taoist ancestor, this breath is weaker, as if it is the power of the Taoist ancestor many times weaker. This is the incarnation of Daozu. Yi Tian was shocked. The incarnation of Daozu actually entered the battlefield ruins, which represented a signal that the incarnation of Daozu wanted to intervene in the quasi-Dao world and the battlefield ruins. Obviously, the chants of the ruins of the battlefield made the Dao ancestors aloof and moved, and for this reason, they came to the quasi-Dao world at all costs. You must know that when Daozu descends into the quasi-Dao world, he also needs to pay a price. The more powerful the incarnation is, the more the price and backlash will be paid. In addition, the battlefield relics are also very difficult, and the Taoist incarnation to come to the battlefield relics also needs to pay a huge price. But compared with the harvest, these costs are worth it to the Taoist ancestors. I don't know which Taoist ancestor. Yi Tian murmured in his heart. There are too many Taoist ancestors in the chaos, although it is far less than the true ancestors, but it is far beyond Yi Tian's imagination. After all, a top power has at least 1 Taoist, and there are so many top powers in chaos, at least thousands of 29. And some top powers have at least several Taoist ancestors, and even some top powers have more than double digits, such as Chaos Trading Firm, Giant Axe City and other real top powers. The number of Taoist ancestors is always a mystery. On the bright side, there are tens of thousands of Taoist ancestors in the chaos, plus the number of Taoist ancestors in the dark. I am afraid there are hundreds of thousands. After all, the existence of chaos is too long, countless universes have been destroyed since birth. I don't know how many reincarnations have lasted, and there are many Taoist realms in chaos. It's just that the chaos is too big, and if the Tao world is scattered, it seems that the Tao world is very rare. There are so many Taoist ancestors in chaos, so Yi Tian doesn't know which Taoist ancestor came this time, and he has only seen a few Taoist ancestors. I hope it's not a Taoist ancestor who has hatred with Zushin. Yi Tian thought to himself. If this Taoist ancestor had a grudge against the Zushin lineage, then this Taoist ancestor probably wouldn't mind killing him. He believes that his strength is very strong, but the realm of the Taoist ancestors is too high. Even if the power of the incarnation is not strong, it is enough to exert terrifying strength. If the power of this Taoist incarnation is very strong, it will be enough to kill him easily. Soon, the incarnation of this Taoist ancestor completely descended on the battlefield ruins. This is the ruins of the battlefield, and finally came in. A young man wearing a golden armor and holding a black spear stepped on the void and muttered. For the first time, his eyes fixed on the dojo, with greed and excitement in his eyes. A dojo, and it is a dojo with Taoism inheritance. If I break through this dojo, I will definitely get the Taoist inheritance, and my strength will definitely increase greatly. 1. Thought the youth. At this time, Yi Tian was observing this Taoist ancestor. Duplicating talent is unable to detect the situation of the Taoist ancestor. Yi Tian knew this for a long time, so he could not know the situation of the Taoist ancestor. As for why the copying talent could not detect Daozu, Yi Tian guessed that it was a level problem of copying talent. Unless the copying talent was upgraded again, there would be no way to detect the strong talent of Daozu at this level. But Yi Tian can investigate the talent of any true ancestor without any restriction. Unfortunately, it is too difficult to upgrade the copying talent. I can clearly feel that the copying talent can be upgraded, but I just couldn't find the upgraded treasure. Yi Tian secretly said. Of course, even so, copying talent is useful today. For example, integrating various talents, allowing him to practice chaotic supernatural powers without limit, or to detect the existence of other people, etc. Duplicating talent could not detect the situation of the Taoist ancestor, but from the dress of the Taoist ancestor and the black spear with special patterns, he could vaguely guess his identity. This should be the Daozu Lanyu of the Tower of Doom. Yi Tian guessed. Lanyu Daozu is not a very strong Daozu, he is only a Daozu in the early stage of Hidao, and he has not mastered Taoism, and his strength is far from being comparable to that of Zushin Daozu. Yi Tian only knew the names and origins of a small number of Taoist ancestors from Zushin Temple, and Lanyu Taoist happened to be one. What makes Yi Tian relieved is that Daozu Lanyu does not have hatred with the Zushin lineage. From the standpoint of the Zushin lineage, Lanyu Daozu is almost a neutral faction, and there is no deal with the Zushin lineage, and it will not be possible. For the virtual world. Therefore, Daozu Lanyu would not kill him as soon as he saw him, otherwise Yi Tian would be a little distressed. Although Daozu Lanyu is not strong, but who knows what kind of killer this Daozu incarnation will master, so he doesn't want to fight with this Daozu incarnation. At this time, Lanyu Daozu also noticed Yi Tian. No matter how Yi Tian hides, it is difficult to avoid the consciousness of Lanyu Daozu. Boy, come here, Daozu Lanyu said coldly. Yi Tian flew over and said respectfully, may I ask if this is Senior Lanyu Daozu? Oh, you know me. Daozu Lanyu was slightly surprised. The ancestors of the Taoist dragons see the head but not the tail, and the true monarchs do not necessarily know many Taoist ancestors, and he is not well known in the chaos, and there are not many true monarchs who know him. Just know Daozu, Yi Tian said truthfully. Which force's Taoist ancestor are you? Daozu Lanyu asked. Shu Tian's lineage, Yi Tian, the direct disciple of Shu Tian Dao's ancestor. Yi Tian reports. Disciple of Zushin Dao, could it be that you are the first son of Zushin's lineage? Lanyu Daozu also recognized Yi Tian. After all, he had also inquired about the situation in the quasi-Dao world, so it is unlikely that he had never heard of the true monarch of the quasi-Dao world. The one way of all. Yes, Yi Tian replied. Lanyu Daozu stared at Yi Tian, nodded and said, yes, Zushin Daozu has accepted a good apprentice, and he was able to suppress so many true monarchs and become the first true monarch in the quasi-Dao world. Lanyu Daozu praised Yi Tian, and immediately said, Yi Tian, I want to know the situation of this dojo. A true monarch under my command is located here, but now there is no trace of him, he must have fallen. So, for this I don't know anything about the condition of the dojo. 280 Yi Tian explained the basic situation of the dojo, but did not mention the secret of Chalong Pond. After listening to Daozu Lanyu, he nodded secretly. The true monarch under his command only passed the news of the dojo and the inheritance of Taoism, and there was no other way to pass it on. After all, this kind of cross-transmission of news was very difficult, and gradually he could only transmit a little news. Compared with Yi Tian's news, he has a general understanding of the situation here. Obviously, the value of this dojo is very high, but the spirit of the dojo is a little troublesome, but that's all. Yi Tian, how about you enter the dojo ruins with me? Daozu Lanyu said softly, but his tone is full of threats. If Yi Tian agrees, I am afraid there will be no good fruit to eat. Yi Tian agreed. He guessed that Lanyu Daozu wanted to monopolize this dojo, and he was afraid that he would inform other Daozu incarnations, so he wanted to keep him here. As for why he didn't kill him, he probably didn't want to offend Zushin Daozu. But if he doesn't agree, Lanyu Daozu doesn't mind killing him, so he will occupy this dojo even if he offends Zushin Daozu. This is the value of the dojo. Yi Tian doesn't want to fight with Lanyu Daozu for the time being, so he can only agree to enter Chalong Daochang. He is very confident in his own strength. Even if Zhang of Chalong Dojo wants to shoot him, he is sure to save his life. Moreover, Daozu's incarnation poses the greatest threat. If Zhangzhen wants to make a move, I am afraid that the other party will take the moon and Daozu instead of targeting him. Yi Tian and Lanyu Daozu stepped into the medicine garden one after the other. Chapter 987 Incarnation of the Four Great Ancestors. Zhang seemed to be aware of the arrival of Lanyu Daozu, so he did not open the ban on medicine gardens and dojos. Previously, after the true monarchs entered the dojo, Zhang no longer restricted the entry of the dojo. As long as a true monarch came, he would open the ban and let the true monarchs enter the dojo. If there is a true monarch to leave, Zhang will not restrict it, and will also open the ban. It can be said that the ban on the export of the medicine garden has been opened for a long time. But now, Lanyu Daozu has arrived, but the long-opened ban has been closed, and there is no sign of it being opened. This shows that Zhang is afraid of the Daozu Lanyu. Perhaps the incarnation of Lanyu Daozu's incarnation is not very strong, but his knowledge and other means far exceed the true monarch. Zhang is willing to let the true monarchs in, but he is not too afraid to let in a Taoist incarnation. Because the incarnation of the Taoist ancestor cannot honestly enter the treasure land to practice, nor can he participate in any assessment, he will only forcefully occupy the dojo and plunder the treasures and opportunities here. It's a very powerful restriction, but it can't beat me. Daozu Lanyu said softly. After all, the prohibition here is only arranged by the Chalong Daozu, and it will not take a long time to arrange it like the dojo defense formation. With the insight of Lanyu Daozu and the understanding of the battle method, it will not take too long to analyze this prohibition. Inside the Chalong Dojo, Zhang saw the incarnation of Daozu Lanyu from the outside world through the ban, and his face was gloomy. The incarnation of the Taoist ancestor is coming, trouble. In fact, he would have expected this situation long ago, but he hoped that the incarnation of Daozu would come later, so that he could control more true monarchs. At that time, he can spend means to improve the strength of these true monarchs, and if he cultivates a human puppet of the true ancestor realm, he can easily block the incarnation of Taoist ancestors. But now, time is simply too late. He is not a real creature, but the spirit of Chalong Dojo. Chalong Daozu has not given him the ability to be a living creature at all, there is no way to cultivate, and there is no way to exert a strong strength. What he can do is to control the prohibition of the Chalong Dojo. Unless the Taoist incarnation enters certain places, he can use the prohibition to trap the opponent, but it is difficult to kill the opponent. But the question is, where will the incarnation of Daozu easily fall into the trap? The plan for now is to attract the true monarchs into the Chalong Pond for transformation as soon as possible. Zhang thought. Immediately, he made a decision, that is, to fully open the Chalong Pond, and double the effect of the Chalong Pond, and he notified the other true monarchs. In this way, there will definitely be many true monarchs entering the Chalong Pond for the first time. Of course, there may be some true monarchs who will be vigilant and doubtful, but this does not affect anything. The greedy true monarchs will definitely occupy the majority. As long as he controls more true monarchs, this is the most important thing at the moment. Time passed by, and the incarnation of Lanyu Daozu has been studying the ban, but it is unrealistic to quickly break the ban. After all, this is the dojo of Chelong Daozu, and the prohibition of Chelong Dojo is the prohibition of the domain. To a certain extent, it is slightly different from the prohibition of this chaotic area. It is the prohibition of the two systems. Therefore, Lanyu Daozu needs to spend a little time to study, otherwise it can only be cracked through strong strength. But Lanyu Daozu is currently in an incarnation state, not a real body, and it is difficult to exert too strong strength, so he cannot break the ban. Half a month passed in a flash. This day, Daozu Lanyu laughed wildly. Ha ha ha, the ban has finally been broken. As Daozu Lanyu's hands continued to form seals, they hit the ban. Soon, the ban began to dissolve, revealing a huge hole. But at this moment, Daozu Lanyu's expression changed. Damn, Tumen, Mengyu, Fengbo, the three of you are here too. Daozu Lanyu looked towards the distance behind and said coldly. We've been here a long time ago, just because you were so focused on breaking the ban, we didn't bother you. As soon as the voice fell, three figures appeared, and they were the incarnations of three Taoist ancestors. The three Taoist incarnations learned the news of the dojo and came immediately, but when they saw that Lanyu Taoist was breaking the ban, they did not show up, but hid in the back. Yi Tian also knew at this time that there were three Taoist incarnations behind him, and his expression changed suddenly. Daozu's concealment method was too strong, and he didn't even notice it. The key is that after the three Taoist incarnations appeared, he vaguely felt the cold gaze of a Taoist ancestor. Although it was only a quick glance, it had already caught his attention. Which Taoist incarnation is going to be bad for me? Yi Tian guessed secretly. He didn't know much about these three Tao patriarchs. He only knew that Mengyu Tao patriarch was a Tao patriarch in Dream Valley, but he was very unfamiliar with the other two Tao patriarchs. Boy Yi Tian, pay attention, that Tumen Taoist is from the Blood Moon faction, a secretly hidden Taoist ancestor of the Blood Moon faction, and it was only exposed not long ago. You have to be careful. Daozu Lanyu reminded. The reason why he reminded Yi Tian was not because he cared about Yi Tian, but because he himself did not deal with Daozu Tumen, so he informed Yi Tian that if he could cause a little trouble to Daozu Tumen, it would be quite good. Thank you, Daozu Lanyu. Yi Tian thanked him through voice transmission. The incarnation of the four great Tao ancestors came and did not fight. After all, it was too stupid to fight without even seeing the chance. Although Tumen Daozu wanted to kill Yi Tian, he didn't do it. After all, it wasn't the last time to do it. Entering the dojo first was the most important thing. Whoa, the incarnation of the fourth great ancestor entered the dojo, and Yi Tian also followed. Boom, Zhang appeared, carrying the power of the Chelong dojo, like a supreme existence, but it was only a force of qi, a person from the shore. The incarnation of Daozu would not be fooled by Zhang, and completely ignored Zhang's momentum. With money, Yi Tian, you and I made a deal, why did you bring the Taoist ancestors? Zhang asked angrily. Yi Tian waved his hands and said quickly, I didn't bring this, but the Taoist ancestors found it themselves, and I didn't say anything. Zhang knew that Yi Tian didn't reveal it, he just vented. The incarnation of the four great ancestors, don't you know what happened to the Chelong dojo? There is nothing good here, just some small things that are useful to the true ancestor. Zhang smiled. There is no need to explain, there is a Taoist inheritance here, and there are many precious treasures. Lanyu Daozu said. Zhang said helplessly, it's just a few weak Taoist arts, it shouldn't be of much use to the Taoist ancestors, and the Chelong Taoist has not fallen. If the several Taoist ancestors are going to be detrimental to the Chelong dojo, you should think about it clearly. 1. What? Chelong Daozu didn't fall? Yi Tian was shocked when he heard it. Chapter 988 The Secrets of the Divine Realm. The Chelong Daozu is the master of the Chelong dojo, also a Daozu in the domain, and another Daozu in a more vast and chaotic area. Yi Tian originally thought that all the creatures on the battlefield ruins had perished, but he never expected that Chelong Daozu was still alive. This news is too shocking, and it is not a trivial matter. It represents a signal that there must be other realm powerhouses hiding or sleeping in the battlefield ruins or the quasi-Dao realm ruins. Lanyu Daozu and other fourth Dao ancestors also changed their expressions slightly, and the news Zhang revealed was too shocking. Although these Taoist ancestors had guessed before that the fragments of the domain would pass through the restricted area and whether there would still be people alive, but many true monarchs thought that no one was alive, because the restricted area was too terrifying and the top Taoist ancestors could not pass through the restricted area. The restricted area will also fall. Therefore, even if the creatures on the shards of the domain are still alive at the beginning, when they pass through the restricted area, they will definitely be obliterated by the power of the restricted area, and they are unlikely to be alive. But now, the spirit of Chalong Dojo revealed that Chalong Daozu, the master of the dojo, is still alive. HMPH, you are deliberately deceiving us. The fragments of the domain will pass through the restricted area, and any living being will be obliterated by the power of the restricted area, and the Taoist ancestors can't bear it. How can it be alive? Daozu Lanyu said coldly. Restricted area? Zhang was stunned for a moment, but quickly understood what the restricted area was mentioned by Daozu Lanyu. The restricted area you are talking about should refer to the dark restricted area. The restricted area should be your side statement, but the actual 280 the area shrouded in endless darkness is called the forbidden area of darkness. If the ancestors do not have a way to deal with it, they will lose their way when they enter the forbidden area of darkness, and they will also be invaded by the forbidden area of the dark forbidden area. Having a way to deal with the forbidden area of darkness, although it is impossible to compete completely, the ancestors are sure to spend a long time in the forbidden area of darkness, so it is not difficult to pass through the forbidden area of darkness with the fragments of the domain. Where is the realm of the gods? Tumen Daozu asked curiously. Zhang seems to want to delay time, so he will answer any questions. On the contrary, as the powerhouses in this realm explore the ruins of the battlefield, they will definitely know the situation in the realm of the gods in heaven, so what he said now is just to let the powerhouses here advance in advance. Just understand the realm of the gods. Zhang explained. No one knows how big the chaos is, and I only know that the chaos is divided into blocks of boundaries, and there are dark forbidden areas between the boundaries, so it is difficult for the strong in one realm. Break through the blockade of the dark forbidden realm and go to other realms. The realm of the gods is the name of the realm I am in. It is an extremely vast realm with countless strong people, and even more than one realm. In the chaotic area opened up in the dark forbidden realm, some people speculate that the realm is an area that is transformed into the inner world after the fall of some unimaginably powerful people. The realm is strong and weak, and the realm of the gods is very powerful. The rules are also very strong, and the rules of your realm are very weak, far inferior to the realm of gods in heaven. I think the strongest person in your realm should only be the most powerful Taoist ancestor. Could it be that your God Heaven realm has powers above Tao ancestor? Daozu Lanyu couldn't help but ask. The other three Taoist ancestors were also very excited, waiting for Zhang's answer one by one. They also want to know this question very much. Although they know from the ruins of the domain that there are stronger people above the Taoist ancestors, they don't know anything about that level, so they are very curious and eager. Zhang replied. The ancestor above is the ancestor of the domain. In the realm of the gods and the sky, the ancestor of the domain is the great existence above. Even my master Chalong Daozu has never seen the ancestor of the domain. The ancestor of the domain can open up the domain, become the master of the domain, and I have a domain ancestor in my domain. It is a pity that the domain ancestor died in battle and the domain was broken. Otherwise, this domain fragment would not fall into your domain. 1 inch. The ancestors, Yi Tian and the fourth Tao ancestor also yearn for this realm. If they become a domain ancestor in their realm, they will definitely become the strongest, above other Tao ancestors, and dominate everything. How to become a domain ancestor? Tumen Daozu said urgently. There was a look of contempt in his eyes, and he seemed to want to say, just because you want to be the ancestor of the domain. Indeed, in such a powerful realm as the God Heaven realm, countless Taoist ancestors could not break the shackles to become domain ancestors. A mere Earth Door Taoist was just an ordinary Taoist. How could he be qualified to become a Taoist? Moreover, Zhang has one point CJFI not to say. That is, the Taoist ancestors who use the ancestral steel to join the Tao have no hope of becoming a domain ancestor. The ancestral steel combination is the most rubbish way of joining the Tao, and it completely imprisons his own potential. But he will not reveal this. After all, he has no need to reveal this secret. I don't know how to become a domain ancestor, but I have heard from the master that the domain ancestors of the God Heaven realm have entered the dark forbidden domain, and perhaps becoming a domain ancestor is related to the dark forbidden domain. Zhang explained. Darkness forbidden area. The four great ancestors change their faces. This is a forbidden area. They dare not enter the dark forbidden area at all. If the top true ancestors do not go deep into the dark forbidden area, they will still have their lives to return. However, once these ordinary ancestors enter the dark forbidden area, it's a life and death experience. You are a little dojo spirit, don't resist, just take out all the treasures in the dojo. Lan Yu Daozu ordered. Everyone, I've answered so many of your questions, it's good enough. Are you really going to be the enemy of my master Chalong Daozu? Although my master is only a Dao ancestor in the early days of He Dao, the Dao ancestor in the God Heaven realm is absolutely powerful. Stronger than the Taoist ancestors of your realm, with my master's combat power, the four of you together are not his opponents. Yi Zhang said coldly. Having said so much, where is your master now? Mengyu Dao ancestor Dao. My master is. Zhang was about to say, but he quickly reacted, HMPH, you want to lie to me, but I can tell you that my master will wake up soon. In addition, there are still a group of sleeping Taoist ancestors left in the realm. Once they wake up, your weak realm will definitely be finished. The four Daozu Lanyu looked solemn when they listened to Zhang's words. Perhaps the Chalong Daozu is not strong, but the other Daozu of the domain fragment must have a very powerful existence. If there is a domain boundary Daozu stronger than the strongest Daozu in their realm, then their realm is indeed dangerous. However, this makes them even more eager to obtain the treasures of this dojo. Perhaps they can take advantage of this opportunity to make them stronger, otherwise how will they survive the next crisis? Superior. The four men Lanyu Daozu took action. Boom! The incarnations of the four great ancestors shot in unison, tearing Zhang's spiritual body in an instant. Of course, this didn't kill Zhang, it just destroyed Zhang's body with the power of the dojo. If the dojo is not destroyed, Zhang cannot be destroyed. This is also one of the abilities of the spirit of the dojo. When the four great ancestors incarnated and attacked the dojo, one after another figure in the Chalong pond came out of the pond. What was different from usual was that the eyes of these true monarchs were blood red, all very strange, exuding a completely different aura from before, but their strength had been greatly improved, as if reborn. Chapter 989 The dojo puppets are dispatched. Go, kill those Taoist incarnations. Zhang gave orders to these people who had been controlled and transformed, said. These human puppets have been transformed by the Chalong pond, and their physical bodies are not known how many times stronger. Although their control over the Great Tao is weakened, with their strong physical bodies and divine power, their combat power is not weaker than the weaker True Monarch list True Monarch. More importantly, these people are not afraid of death, and their resilience is terrifying. Even if they are beaten into countless pieces, as long as the energy on their bodies is not exhausted, they can instantly recover, just like immortal bodies. It is precisely because of this undead ability that the human puppet army under Chalong Daozu's command is enough to shock countless powerhouses, and even attract the attention of the high-level people in the domain. There are only a few human puppets that are comparable to the true monarch ranking, and no matter how many they are, it is difficult to kill a Taoist incarnation, but Zhang is really optimistic about those half-step true ancestor-level human puppets. That's right, True Monarch Luo Hai and several other half-step true ancestors also entered the Chalong pond, and still cannot avoid the fate of being transformed. Originally, Zhenjin Luo Hai and others were very powerful, but now after the transformation of Chalongqi, the physical body has become extremely powerful, and the combat power is far beyond that before, even comparable to some real ancestors who have been promoted to the top of the list of real emperors. In other words, the current strength of Zhenjin Luo Hai and others is equivalent to the true ancestor of genius. However, several Taoist incarnations were forced to descend on the battlefield ruins, so it was difficult to exert the strength of the true ancestor, and the level of incarnation cultivation still belonged to the half-step true ancestor. Therefore, it is really possible for these people to kill the Taoist incarnation. Boom boom boom. A large number of true monarch puppets appeared, attracting the attention of many true monarchs. God, what's the situation? The aura of these true monarchs is not right. Their eyes are emitting red light, such a strange aura. True Monarch Luo Hai and the others are also like this. They are half-step true ancestors. How did they become like this? 1. Look, these true monarchs all came out of Chalong Pond. There is definitely something wrong with Chalong Pond. Fortunately, I didn't enter the Chalong Pond, otherwise I would have become one of them. No, the spirit of Chalong Dojo is really uneasy and kind, and actually controls these true monarchs. Go, hurry up. Ming Zhenjin quickly left, trying to leave the dojo. However, Zhang had closed the ban at this time, and the ban on the medicine garden that was broken by Daozu Lanyu before began to recover. Therefore, these true monarchs cannot leave now. At this time, several Taoist incarnations met with people. True Monarch Luo Hai, True Monarch Jinluan, True Monarch Violent Bear. What are you doing? Tumen Daozu roared. At this moment, he saw that the three half-step true ancestors led many true monarchs to surround them, and they launched an attack as soon as they came up, which was simply provoking them. If the real body came, he would definitely kill them with just one look. But now, he is just the incarnation of Daozu, and his strength is very good. Although he still won't put these half-step true ancestors in his eyes, at least he can't ignore them. They're under control, Daozu Lanyu said softly. The incarnations of Taoist ancestors are not stupid. Naturally, they soon discovered that something was wrong with these true monarchs. They had been completely controlled, and it could even be said that they had become another person. Kill. True monarch Luohai's eyes flashed red, turning into a terrifying giant, holding a huge trident and slaying Daozu Lanyu fiercely. Court death. Daozu Lanyu was furious, and pointed at him, ready to kill him with one blow, regardless of his identity as a disciple of the chaos firm of True Monarch Luohai. After all, True Monarch Luohai has been controlled by Chelong Dojo, and he is no longer True Monarch Luohai, and he also attacked his Taoist ancestor. Even if he killed him, Chaos Trading Firm would not come to him for trouble. According to Daozu Lanyu's estimation, with his single finger, it is enough to kill a half-step true ancestor like True Monarch Luohai. After all, True Monarch Luohai is not too powerful, not the kind of true monarch that defies the sky. But soon, Lanyu Dao ancestor's color changed. Boom! Daozu Lanyu's finger collided with True Monarch Luohai's trident, and a terrifying force extended from the trident, breaking the finger of Daozu Lanyu. I saw a little bit of crimson on Daozu Lanyu's fingers, and the skin defense was broken by the trident. Although it was only a minor injury, it meant that True Monarch Luohai had injured him. A half-step true ancestor actually hurt his Taoist incarnation. You must know that his incarnation is also a half-step true ancestor. With the power of the great Tao and the magical techniques he mastered, it was a huge shame that he would be injured by a small half-step true ancestor. On the other side, the three Daozu incarnations of Tumen Daozu, Mengyu Daozu, and Fengbo Daozu also suffered, because they also underestimated these half-step true ancestors. Ask for flowers. At this time, Zhang also launched the formation of the Chelong Dojo and began to suppress the incarnation of the fourth great ancestor, trying to keep the fourth great ancestor incarnate here forever. At the same time, there are real monarch-level puppets within the Chelong Daozu, which are real puppets, not human puppets. These puppets are the only puppets left in the Chelong Dojo. The strength of each puppet is comparable to that of the top true monarchs. Although they cannot match the true monarchs of the true monarch list, as long as there are enough numbers, they are enough to kill the true monarchs of the true monarch list. Tens of thousands of puppets were dispatched, and there were 10 puppets of the true ancestor that were somewhat broken. Originally, there were far more than 10 true ancestor-level puppets in the Chelong Dojo, but in the shattering battle of the realm, the foundation of the Chelong Dojo was almost destroyed, and more true ancestor-level puppets were taken away by the Chelong Dojo. And these 10 true ancestor-level puppets have been repaired for a long time before they can be used. Point 0. Originally, the strength of the truly perfect true ancestor-level puppet was comparable to that of the true ancestor in the later stages of the Great Tao, but now it can only play the true ancestor in the early stages of the Great Tao, and its strength is second only to that of the transformed human puppet Falling Sea True Monarch. The purpose of these puppets is not to assist the human puppets to kill the incarnations of the four great ancestors, but to attack other true monarchs, preparing to forcibly arrest these true monarchs and then send them to Chelongchi for forced transformation and control. Suddenly, the entire dojo was filled with battles and slaughter. Compared with the true monarch puppets, the true monarchs present were really too weak, and many true monarchs could not compete at all, so they were captured by the true monarch puppets and sent to Chelong Pond for transformation. Today, Zhang no longer hides his purpose. And Yi Tian was taken care of, and the two true ancestor puppets clearly hated him. Yi Tian is not afraid of these two true ancestor-level puppets, but he will not burst into full strength immediately, otherwise Zhang will definitely take care of him more. Therefore, he only exerted part of his strength and entangled with these two true ancestor-level puppets. The real battlefield still belongs to the incarnation of the four great ancestors. The strength of Chelong Dojo is indeed not weak, but Yi Tian feels that the incarnations of Daozu are stronger and have a stronger background. The strength of Chelong Dojo is not enough, and there is little hope of victory. After all, the Chelong Dojo is only resisting under the control of a spirit. Unless the Chelong Daozu appears, the ending will not change at all. Chapter 990 The End of the Chelong Dojo. Die. A famous real monarch turned into a blood mist under the attack of the incarnation of the four great ancestors. At this moment, the incarnations of Taoist ancestors are very angry. They are Taoist ancestors, and they are high above. Now these weakened ants like true monarchs dare to attack them, which is a mortal sin. As a result, the incarnations of the four great ancestors no longer kept their hands. Although they came in avatars, they still carried some strange objects on their bodies, so their combat power was very strong. In addition, their realm was too high. Therefore, these true monarch puppets are like ants in their hands, and they can be crushed by touching them. Of course, the recovery ability of these people is too strong. Even if they become blood mist, they cannot kill them. The real way to kill them is to annihilate their souls or grind them to death again and again. The incarnations of Daozu's incarnations, 280s, have a high level of soul awareness, but they carry too little soul awareness, and naturally they will not use their soul to attack. Otherwise, if the soul is consumed too much, the incarnation's strength will not be able to be exerted. Therefore, they can only choose to grind these true monarch puppets to death again and again, which causes the battle to fall into a stalemate and cannot end quickly. Basically, a puppet of a true monarch can maintain 3 chances of recovery under the incarnation of Daozu. After 3 times, the energy is almost exhausted and it can no longer be recovered. Therefore, with the passage of time, a person named True Monarch fell to his death. Sure enough, I still can't stop these 4 Taoist incarnations. If there is only one Taoist incarnation, there is still a chance to wipe them out at a huge price. Zhang sighed. In short, there is still too little time left for him. If he is given enough, he is enough to make Qilong Dojo a not weak force, without fear of the incarnation of Daozu. But now, the incarnations of 4 Taoist ancestors have arrived, and the Qilong Dojo can't stop it. The master is still sleeping. Don't disturb the master, otherwise it will affect the master's strength recovery. Zhang is not. With the current situation of the dojo, the incarnation of the 4th great ancestor has entered the dojo. But this is impossible. Even Qilong Daozu could not rest assured that a dojo would be completely managed by the spirit of the dojo. After a while, the number of true monarch puppets was not much left. Although the true monarch puppets captured some true monarchs and sent them to Qilong Pond for transformation, the transformation time was too short, so they could barely control them. It is impossible to completely transform the physical body, the strength is not improved very much, and it cannot be of much use at all, and it can only be used as cannon fodder. Gradually, more and more true monarchs have fallen, and even the half-step true ancestral puppet has fallen. Only the true monarch Luohai is still holding on, but his body has also been destroyed several times, and he can't hold on for long. On the battlefield, the incarnation of Mengyu Daozu had just killed a group of true monarch puppets, and when he was about to take another shot, a terrifying force bound him, and then a terrifying annihilation occurred. Boom! An area of the dojo collapsed directly, and the incarnation of Mengyu Daozu forcibly flew out of the annihilation area, looking very miserable, and even lost one arm. But in an instant, Mengyu Daozu's incarnation recovered this arm. Surely not dead, Zhang regretted. He just forcibly mobilized the power of the dojo to focus on one point and launched an attack on Mengyu Daozu, because Mengyu Daozu's incarnation has the weakest physical defense and is most likely to kill him. Then, the blow just now was enough to kill some true ancestors in the middle and late stages of the Great Dao, but still did not kill the incarnation of Mengyu Dao ancestor. And the other side, Mengyu Daozu has lingering fears. Just now, her avatar was almost killed. As a Taoist ancestor, her realm is so high, and she has mastered a variety of source magical powers, and the control of power is beyond the imagination of others. The blow just now was enough to kill her, but she avoided the focus of power annihilation, instantly found the weak point, and forcibly broke the space and escaped. Otherwise, her avatar would not be able to keep it. As usual, when an avatar fell, she wouldn't care at all. But in this era, once the avatar has fallen, if you want to pay a huge price to gather another avatar and send it to the quasi-Dao world, the price to pay is too great, enough to cause her body to be severely damaged. Therefore, if the incarnation falls and cannot intervene in the battlefield ruins for a long time, the loss will be too great. The ruins of the battlefield now have countless opportunities, even for a Taoist ancestor like her, there are many opportunities. She didn't want to give up this opportunity, at least to get some benefits. Next, Zhang attacked several Taoist incarnations again. Although he injured them, he did not kill even one Taoist incarnation. There is no way to condense the power of the dojo to launch an attack, the speed is not very fast, and it is easy to be avoided. In addition, as Zhang launched more attacks, the ban on the dojo became unstable, and the ban in some places even began to collapse. It didn't take long for the entire dojo to be cracked in space, as if the dojo was about to collapse. The Chelong dojo was originally in the cracks of the battlefield ruins. With the severe consumption of the Chelong dojo and the collapse of the ban, it was naturally difficult to maintain. At this moment, Yi Tian exploded his full strength, and with one blow, he directly shattered a true ancestor-level puppet, and immediately knocked off another true ancestor-level puppet, and then flew towards the heavenly soul tree. Go! The ban has disappeared, and the ban on the sky soul tree is estimated to be unstable. I may get more sky soul fruit. Yi Tian guessed. Heavenly soul fruit is indeed a good thing, but it is a pity that the growth rate is too slow, and the heavenly soul tree of Chelong dojo has grown for a long time in the battlefield ruins, so that so many heavenly soul fruits have grown. One person can only take one heavenly soul fruit in a lifetime, which is true, but if the heavenly soul fruit is refined into a heavenly soul pill, one can take it 9 times. This is what Yi Tian learned from the Black Wind Mountain book space. Therefore, Yi Tian wanted to get more heavenly soul fruit at 5.8. In addition, he can also give the heavenly soul fruit to his relatives, or even leave it to the human race, or trade it out, which is enough to exchange for countless resources. Swish! Yi Tian's speed was very fast, and he soon came to the heavenly soul tree. Zhang also wanted to intercept Yi Tian, but now his focus is on dealing with the incarnation of the 4 great Tao ancestors, whereas he's still in charge of Yi Tian. In this way, Yi Tian came under the heavenly soul tree, and now there is no one true monarch here, and there are not many true monarchs alive in the entire dojo. Sure enough, the ban here is about to dissipate. Yi looked at the huge heavenly soul tree and muttered. Without further ado, let's start collecting the heavenly soul fruit. Chapter 991 Destruction of the Dojo, Chase and Kill. One by one, the heavenly soul fruit fell into Yi Tian's hands and was collected into the universe within the body by Yi Tian. The value of each heavenly soul fruit is unimaginable, so many heavenly soul fruits fell into Yi Tian's hands, making Yi Tian extremely excited. Such a big harvest is simply enough to make Daozu be moved. Yi Tian's speed was very fast, and in a short while he collected more than 80,000 heavenly soul fruits. There were originally 100,000 heavenly soul fruits, but during this time, many true monarchs came here, and almost every true monarch came here. When I arrived at the heavenly soul tree, I took a heavenly soul fruit. Therefore, the number of heavenly soul fruits here is only over 80,000. Now, Yi Tian took advantage of the restriction here to dissipate to the point where it was almost non-existent. After collecting the heavenly soul fruit, Yi Tian no longer stayed here, but quickly headed towards the Taoist pavilion. The large number of inheritances of Tao Fa Pavilion is also an unimaginable wealth, especially the inheritance of the remaining 8 great ways, which is Yi Tian's most desired inheritance. When Yi Tian arrived at Tao Fa Pavilion, the incarnation of the 4th great ancestor also came here. Obviously, the battle was over, and the puppet of the true monarch and the puppet of the true monarch were almost killed by the incarnation of the 4 great ancestors. At this time, the entire dojo was crumbling, and space cracks spread throughout the dojo. Boom! The incarnation of the 4 great ancestors attacked the Taoist pavilion madly. The prohibition formation of the Taoist pavilion was many times weaker, and coupled with the attack of the incarnation of the Taoist patriarch, it could not be maintained at all. Crack! The formation restrictions of the Tao Fa pavilion were completely broken, and even the Tao Fa pavilion was torn apart by the incarnation of the 4 great Tao ancestors. Yi Tian watched the attack of the 4th great ancestor avatar not far away, and had to admit that the 4 great ancestor avatar's attack strength was not very strong, but the power level was very high, and it contained a weakened Tao power. This kind of power is enough to cause damage to the Tao ancestor, and no matter how powerful Yi Tian's power is, it cannot cause any harm to the real Tao ancestor. In other words, if Daozu stood in front of Yi Tian, it would be difficult for him to attack Daozu for hundreds of millions of years, but Daozu incarnation could hurt Daozu. That's the power level difference. If the power level of the incarnation of Daozu is too high, enough to cause irreversible destructive damage to the dojo, otherwise the Chelong dojo's Zhang will not be afraid of the incarnation of the 4th Daozu. If Yi Tian attacked the dojo alone, Zhang wouldn't care at all. He could easily use the restraint to trap Yi Tian, but the restraint of the Chelong dojo couldn't restrain the incarnation of the 4 great Tao ancestors. I still underestimate the incarnations of Taoist ancestors. Although their power is not very strong, the level of power is too high. If I fight with them, even in the face of the weakest incarnation of Taoist ancestors, it is difficult for me to kill them. I can only consume them slowly. Kill them. Yi Tian thought to himself. It can be difficult to consume a Taoist incarnation. If it is not good, the Taoist incarnation has not been consumed, and he can't hold on. Boom! The Taoist pavilion was completely shattered, and rays of light scattered everywhere. These rays of light are all inherited, and the inheritance of the 8 great ways is also among them. I saw the hands of the great Tao appear in the void, grabbing the light of inheritance. Seeing this scene, Yi Tian felt a little moved, not knowing whether to take action or not. If he makes a move, the 4 Taoist incarnations probably won't let him go. No, even if I don't take action, but I have obtained so many heavenly soul fruits, these 4 Taoist incarnations will never mind killing me to take the heavenly soul fruits. Yi Tian thought to himself. After all, so many heavenly soul fruits are enough to make their respective forces greatly increase their strength. Especially the Tumen Daozu, 100% will take action against him. Done. Yi Tian also shot. Black Wind Territory Technique. The power of the universe within the body extended to the outside world, turning into a black wave that enveloped this area. In the next moment, the power of the Black Wind Domain Boundary Technique bound most of the light spots and pulled them into the universe one by one. Then, Yi Tian ran wild. Run away, run away, run away. Yi Tian is well aware of his current situation, he is simply grabbing food from the hands of 4 Taoist incarnations. However, Yi Tian was very smart, he didn't capture all the inheritance, otherwise the 4 great Tao patriarchs would all be terrifying to hunt him down. He left a part of the inheritance, so it is impossible for all Taoist incarnations to chase and kill him, and only 2 at most to chase and kill him. But soon, Yi Tian miscalculated. Because the prohibition of the formation between the dojo and the outside world has not disappeared, Zhang of Chelong Dojo still controls the formation, and does not let the incarnation of the real monarch and Taoist in the dojo leave. Although the formation restriction at this time has been much weaker, even the Taoist incarnation knows the restriction very well, and don't even think of breaking the restriction and leaving without a minute's time. As for Yi Tian, he didn't know much about these high-level restrictions, so naturally he couldn't forcibly break the restrictions and leave. On the edge of the Chelong Dojo, Yi Tian looked at the 2 Taoist incarnations who were chasing after him, and smiled awkwardly. 2 Taoist ancestors, I'm just joking with you, do you believe it or not? The Daozu who came after him were the Tumen Daozu and Fengbo Daozu. Without saying a word, these 2 Tao ancestors immediately shot Yi Tian without giving Yi Tian a chance to delay time. But at this moment, a voice filled the dojo. You all die for me, and when the master returns, he will definitely seek revenge for you. 1. This is the roar of Zhang, but also the voice of despair. Not good. The incarnations of the 4 great ancestors changed. Tumen Daozu and Fengbo Daozu no longer attacked Yi Tian, and they all used their defensive source magical powers, and they tore apart the space and tried to leave the dojo. Boom boom boom. A terrifying explosion sounded, and the entire dojo exploded. A large number of buildings were blown up one after another, and the power of the entire dojo also exploded, all around. The destruction light devoured all the light and energy around it, turning into a black hole in the area of the battlefield ruins. Wow wow. One after another silhouettes rushed out of the space hole in embarrassment, all very embarrassed. Half of the 280-year-old Daozu Lanyu disappeared, and the other Daozu were not much better, and they were all severely injured. And Yi Tian also rushed out, both hands and feet disappeared, and blood holes appeared in his chest, and the whole person was severely injured. Zhang's devastating attack, at the cost of the destruction of the dojo, nearly killed him. If he hadn't possessed the 2 original supernatural powers, the 3-element unity and the real body of the blood river, and all the divine power and soul power had been converted into physical power, which greatly increased his own defense, otherwise he would be dead. Plus, this time he lost a lot. Not only was he seriously injured, but even the strange object of Baron's statue was cracked. Strange objects are not indestructible. Once the battle exceeds the limit, the strange objects will be slowly damaged until they are destroyed. The Baron's statue is still a considerable increase in Yi Tian's strength, and now it is about to be destroyed, which also makes Yi Tian very sad. But now is not the time for heartache, the incarnation of the 4th great patriarch is not dead yet. Swish! Yi Tian quickly fled away, while Tumen Daozu and Fengbo Daozu reacted and chased towards Yi Tian. Lanyu Daozu and Mengyu Daozu also hesitated for a while, but soon made a decision and went after Yi Tian. Even if they will offend Zushin Yimai and Zushin Daozu this time, they will not hesitate. After all, Yi Tian has a lot of inheritance and a lot of treasures. Once Yi Tian is killed, the harvest will be too great. Chapter 992 Small Realm. I'll go, the 4 Taoist incarnations will all come to chase and kill me. Yi Tian sensed the situation behind, and his expression suddenly changed. He used the origin divine ability to move the void, and the speed was already very fast, even faster than many true ancestors, but the Taoist incarnations were too thorough in the study of space, and were proficient in all kinds of speed flow origin divine ability. Therefore, the incarnations of Taoist ancestors were faster than him. However, the incarnations of the four great patriarchs were also very surprised. They were also stunned by Yi Tian's speed, which was unbelievable. It is not uncommon for a true monarch to create space and speed primordial powers in chaos, but if the basic speed is slow, no matter how much space and speed primordial powers are used, the speed cannot be too fast. And Yi Tian's speed was beyond their expectations, and he was the fastest true monarch they had ever seen. Fortunately, Wanfa Daozi didn't break through to the half-step true ancestor realm, otherwise our speed would not be as good as his. Tumen Daozu secretly said in his heart. At this time, Yi Tian wanted to call his master Zushin Daozu for help, but after thinking about it carefully, even if Zushin Daozu descended into the ruins of the battlefield and wanted to rescue him, it would be too late. He can only rely on himself. Dai, the Taoist ancestor of the Earth Door, separated by a long distance, exerted a magical power of the Earth system. I saw a spear of earth filled with endless coercion tearing through the void, descending instantly, and killing Yi Tian. Shocked, Black Wind Territory Technique. Yi Tian used the quaking source supernatural power to oscillate the space, affecting the spear of earth, and then used the Black Wind domain technique to restrain the spear of earth, so as to free himself from the lock of the spear of earth and escape the attack in an instant. But this earth spear still caused a devastating attack on this area. Chasing and killing all the way, the incarnation of the fourth great ancestor attacked Yi Tian from time to time, and occasionally attacked Yi Tian several times, but did not cause too much damage to Yi Tian. In terms of strength, Yi Tian is actually not weaker than the incarnations of these four Taoist ancestors, but the level of strength is not as good as the others, and the understanding and use of the Tao is not as good as the others. Therefore, Yi Tian couldn't get rid of the pursuit of the four Taoist incarnations at all, and soon, he would fall into a predicament that he could not escape. Time is running out, Yi Tian keeps thinking about how to escape from here. If they were not incarnations of Taoist ancestors, Yi Tian could completely use the Great World to move this chaotic supernatural power and travel to other small worlds. There are small worlds in this battlefield ruins, and there are more than one. Although they are basically broken small worlds, he can completely use the big world to escape from here. However, the space of the battlefield ruins is too stable, and it will take a little time to perform the Great World movement, and that little time is too long for the incarnations of Taoist ancestors. In addition, the Taoist incarnation's understanding of space is completely beyond Yi Tian's imagination. Even if he succeeds, the Taoist incarnations can forcibly break Yi Tian's teleportation. Therefore, just the Great Realm movement at the level of chaos supernatural power is not enough for Daozu incarnations. If you face the Daozu directly, the Great Realm movement is even more useless. When the incarnations of the four great ancestors were about to catch up, Yi Tian suddenly thought of a way. Black Wind Territory Technique. Black Wind Territory Technique can help me get out of this predicament. There is hope in Yi Tian's heart. Previously, when he was using the Black Wind Domain Boundary Technique, he clearly sensed special spaces, and those spaces were very likely to be the unique realms opened up by the 10 Black Wind Mountain Kings. Of course, this is not a real realm, just a special world opened up by a simulated realm, which can be called a small realm. These small realms are very hidden, and even Tao ancestors can't find where these small realms are, and the Black Wind realm is the only way to enter these small realms. If you are a beginner in the Black Wind domain, you can only send your consciousness to the small realm, but if you cultivate the Black Wind domain to the perfect state, you can enter the small realm. Yi Tian's Black Wind realm boundary technique has been cultivated to the perfect state, so he can enter the small realm. If I escape into the small realm, let alone the incarnation of the four great ancestors, even if the real body of the four great ancestors arrives, I will not be able to find the location of the small realm, and I will not be able to enter it. Yi Tian thought to himself. In the past, he didn't understand what the small realm represented, but now he knew that the 10 kings were able to create such a miraculous small realm, and its strength was absolutely extraordinary among Taoist ancestors, far surpassing other Taoist ancestors. Even his master is probably far inferior to a Black Wind Mountain King. Immediately, Yi Tian performed the Black Wind Territory technique again, and carefully sensed a connection in the dark. Soon, small realms emerged in his perception. But Yi Tian's other small realms seem to be very far away, and the connection is very weak. Only one small realm is very closely related to him, and it seems to be in the battlefield ruins. Then, Yi Tian followed the connection and wrapped himself in the Black Wind domain technique, trying to enter this domain. Boom! Yi Tian's body was wrapped by a force and disappeared instantly, crossing layers of space and arriving at a strange place. What about people? The incarnations of the four great Tao ancestors appeared one by one, and the consciousness constantly sensed the spatial fluctuations, trying to find Yi Tian's location. But no matter how they felt, they couldn't find where Yi Tian went, as if some kind of power cut off the trace of Yi Tian. How is it possible? He is just a true monarch, how could he escape from us? Tumen Daozu said in shock. Even he can't get rid of other Taoist incarnations silently, how did Yi Tian do it? Some kind of strange thing. Impossible, even if you use the strange object to escape, there should be traces, and it will not disappear silently. Could it be a treasure from the realm? Tumen Daozu guessed. He guessed that Yi Tian got some kind of treasure in the domain, and only in the domain can such treasures appear, so that they can't find the trace of Yi Tian, otherwise there is no way to make sense. Immediately, they became more interested in Yi Tian. It's a pity that they can't find Yi Tian, even if they are interested, Yi Tian. There is no life in this money. Yi Tian's consciousness scanned this small realm and muttered. This place is like a starry sky, the area is not large, it is only about the size of the previous solar system, and even not as good as some middle thousand worlds. But the space here is extremely stable, even Yi Tian can't shake the space here, and even if he makes an attack, he can't break a star, at most a small mountain. According to what Zhang said, there should be many strong people still alive in the battlefield ruins, and the 10 kings of Haifunction may still be alive. Yi Tian guessed. It's a pity that he didn't see the 10 kings of Haifeng Mountain this time, but coming to this small realm is already quite a good harvest. At least he can use it as a safe rear area now. Once in danger, he can come here in time. This time the harvest is good. I won't go out for now. I will retreat here for a while to improve my strength. 1. Yi Tian intends to say. Chapter 993 Self-Created Body Refinement Technique, Juji True Body Art. Yi Tian took out a cultivation tower, placed it in this small realm, and then opened the time formation of the cultivation tower. Although this time array is not as high as 10,000 times the time of the real-time tower, it can also be accelerated to several thousand times, but it consumes more resources. This is also because this time array is not of high grade and is relatively general. However, Yi Tian doesn't lack these resources now, so naturally he doesn't care. In fact, he himself can speed up his cultivation by 10,000 times, but if he accelerates time 10,000 times all the time, he will not be able to cultivate, and naturally it is impossible to do this to save time. Under the great formation of time, Yi Tian began to retreat and practice. This time in retreat, he is going to practice the technique of alchemy. He has a large amount of heavenly soul fruit in his hand, so he naturally finds a way to train it into a heavenly soul pill, but he is uneasy about handing over the task of refining the heavenly soul pill to others, he must make it himself. But his alchemy skills are not high, if he comes to refine it in person, the possibility of failure is very high. Therefore, he intends to continuously practice the technique of alchemy. He also has the talent of alchemy himself, and has copied the super god level alchemy talent of others. In terms of talent, it is definitely the highest level of chaos, so as long as he keeps practicing, his alchemy attainments can definitely reach 293, to a very high level. In the days that followed, Yi Tian took out a large amount of elixir to make medicinal pills. From the beginning, he could only make medicinal pills that were suitable for the level of earthly venerate, and gradually he could make medicinal pills that were suitable for the level of gods and emperors. Elixir. During this period, Yi Tian didn't know how many elixir was wasted. Although he also refined a lot of elixir, the whole was in a state of blood loss, but Yi Tian didn't care about these losses at all. 10 years in the outside world, under the great battle of time, Yi Tian has practiced alchemy for tens of thousands of years. At this moment, Yi Tian's alchemy attainments are already very high, enough to refine the pills suitable for the true ancestors, but the success rate not too high. The grade of the heavenly soul pill is not very high, but its effect is very good, thus creating a great reputation for the heavenly soul pill. Therefore, Yi Tian's current alchemy attainments have a high success rate in refining the heavenly soul pill. Start refining the heavenly soul pill. Yi Tian took out the heavenly soul fruit and some auxiliary elixir. He didn't know how many elixir he had collected before, and there were all kinds of elixir, so there was no shortage of auxiliary elixir. After that, Yi Tian began to officially refine. Since it is the first time to refine the heavenly soul pill, even if Yi Tian has high attainments in alchemy, the refining fails in 90% of the time. After refining CJFI dozens of times, the success rate is over 90%. With the passage of time, one after another heaven soul pill was born. Under normal circumstances, one heavenly soul fruit can only make one heavenly soul pill, but if one is highly skilled in alchemy, there is a very small chance that one heavenly soul fruit will produce two heavenly soul pills, and the effect is not bad. As Yi Tian refines more and more heavenly soul pills, there are almost always two heavenly soul pills in one pot. In this way, within 1,000 years of the time formation, Yi Tian almost used up all the heavenly soul fruits, and finally harvested at least 150,000 heavenly soul pills. 150,000 heavenly soul pills. If this is spread out, I'm afraid I don't know how many Taoist ancestors want my life, even my master Shu Tiandaozu. I'm afraid he will put down his face and ask me for it. Yi Tian said with a smile. Of course, he won't say it out, and the good things are naturally kept by himself. Immediately, he took a heavenly soul pill. This time, he did not use the heavenly soul pill to cultivate some source magical powers, nor any secret techniques, but to create chaos body refinement techniques. Now, he has obtained a large amount of inheritance, and has gained an unknown number of inheritance of chaos body refinement technique, so he has enough background to create his own chaos body refinement technique. But it takes a lot of time to create a very high-level chaos body refinement technique. In today's era, there are countless opportunities, and every once in a while there will be big opportunities, and everyone's cultivation speed is extremely fast. It is impossible for him to waste time on creating the chaos body refinement technique, otherwise he will become a Taoist ancestor, and he may still be wandering at the level of a true monarch. The heavenly soul pill gave him hope, allowing him to create an amazing chaos body refinement technique at an extreme time. Let's start. Under the effect of the heavenly soul pill, Yi Tian has passed 10,000 years in a short period of time. In a split second, Yi Tian has created most of the chaos body refinement technique. It's so difficult, I haven't even created a chaos body refinement technique with a single heaven soul pill, it seems that I still need to take a second one. Yi Tian took another heavenly soul pill. This time, he finally created a chaos body refinement technique, far surpassing other chaos body refinement techniques, enough to elevate his physical body to the current extreme. Yi Tian gave this chaotic body refining technique a name called Juji True Body Art. Juji Gen Body Art is divided into 9 extremes. For other true monarchs, practicing the first extreme is enough to push the physical body to the limit of the physical body, and is not qualified to cultivate the second extreme. And Yi Tian must cultivate the real body of Juju to the realm of Juju before he can push his physical body to the limit. Next, Yi Tian spent a lot of resources to advance his physical realm. Since there is no shortage of resources, Yi Tian's cultivation speed is very fast, which is simply incredible. Over the course of this year, the first Juju has been cultivated. Yi Tian's physical body is very strong, so practicing the first pole only makes Yi Tian's foundation more stable, but his strength is not improved. Afterwards, Yi Tian practiced the second pole, the third pole, until he practiced the sixth pole. At this time, Yi Tian really reached the level of the physical body. If he cultivated into the seventh pole, Yi Tian's physical body could usher in a transformation, and his strength would skyrocket. At this time, Yi Tian also seemed to understand why the realm didn't have a chaotic body refining technique like Juji True Body Art, because there was no need to create such a chaotic body refining technique. The first 6 extremities of the Juji True Body Art are only one level stronger than the Golden Ape body refinement technique. Those in the middle or upper tiers of heaven definitely have chaotic body refining techniques that are comparable to the first 6 extremities of the Juji True Body Art. Function has such a body refining technique. However, other true monarchs can't practice the 6th pole at all. Even the real monstrous Tianzhao, comparable to the 6th tactic of the 9-pole true body art is enough, no matter how much, there is no way to cultivate. For other true monarchs, the 7th, 8th, and 9th extremities of the Juji True Body Art are no different from those of the true ancestor level. The 8th and 9th poles of the Juji True Body Art are more difficult to cultivate and take a long time, but it shouldn't take long to cultivate the 7th pole, and once I practice the 7th pole, my strength will skyrocket. Even if you leave the small realm, you don't have to be afraid of the incarnation of the 4 great ancestors. Yi Tian thought to himself. Therefore, he planned to leave the small realm after he practiced the 7th pole of the Juji True Body Art. In the blink of an eye, 100 years have passed in the outside world. In the past 100 years, a famous ancestor incarnate came to the battlefield ruins, and countless opportunities were unearthed. Every day, there is news that the true monarch has obtained a great opportunity. From time to time, a true monarch has become a half-step true ancestor, and from time to time there is news that the incarnation of the Taoist ancestor has fallen. And I don't know how many true monarchs died, and there are even many Taoist ancestors who fell on the battlefield. This day, somewhere in the battlefield ruins, the space ripples, and a figure walks out. This person is Yi Tian. Chapter 994. Prepare to find the Taoist incarnation trouble. Hey, many people sent messages to me. Yi Tian just walked out of the small realm and said in surprise. He has been in the small realm for hundreds of years, and the small realm has blocked any means of communication, so he did not receive any messages at all, but as soon as he came out, these messages were sensed. Most of them are messages from true monarch Yanglong. Yi Tian said in his heart. True monarch Yanglong is his subordinate. He didn't enter the battlefield ruins at first, but now he has come in. During this period, he sent him a lot of messages, but he did not receive them. Secondly, there is the communication of the goddess Yunzi. The goddess Yunzi has now entered the battlefield ruins again. It seems that she has discovered a ruin and wants to cooperate with him again, but this happened 50 years ago. It is estimated that this cooperation will not be achieved. In addition, there are some messages from the true monarchs in the Zushan temple asking for help or inquiries, which are basically relatively old, and there have been almost no messages in the past 10 years. Obviously, many people should know that he is now in a state of disappearance. Yi Tian took a little time to reply one by one. True monarch Yanglong got Yi Tian's reply and quickly sent a message, "Come here." True monarch Yanglong didn't ask Yi Tian why he didn't reply for 100 years. After all, it is normal for true monarchs to retreat once and cultivate for 100 years. It is normal for them to cultivate for hundreds of millions of years. It's just that in this period of time, there are countless great opportunities, and few true monarchs have retreated for such a long time. True monarch Yanglong thought that Yi Tian got the chance and digested the chance in 100 years, so he didn't dare to ask too much. Afterwards, true monarch Yanglong focused on some things that had happened in the past century. Hearing the contents of true monarch Yanglong's communication, Yi Tian roughly understood the situation of the battlefield ruins. I didn't expect many dojos to appear in the battlefield ruins. Yi Tian was very surprised. Although the battlefield ruins are very large, it is not known how many times smaller than the realm, and it is not even as big as a universe, and the entire chaotic realm is such a huge area that only a few Taoist ancestors were born. But now, in such a large area as the battlefield ruins, there are many Taoist dojos, which shows how many Taoist ancestors are in this area. The strength of the domain can be glimpsed from this ruin. The dojos were born one by one, plus many places of great opportunity that were not weaker than the dojos were born, attracting many Taoist incarnations to come, and even fighting for it. Ancestor. As for the whereabouts of Lanyu Daozu's incarnation, true monarch Yanglong does not know. After all, true monarch Yanglong is just an ordinary true monarch. It is very good to be able to survive in places such as battlefield ruins. Where can we get the whereabouts of Taoist incarnations? Yi Tian learned that the true monarch Yanglong and a group of true monarchs of the void heaven were cultivating in a place with a small chance, and they did not pass. With the help of his power, true monarch Yanglong got along very well in the hall of void heaven, and when he united with a group of true monarchs who were not strong enough, as long as he was not too unlucky or too greedy in the battlefield ruins, he could barely save his life. Therefore, Yi Tian is not too worried. Lanyu Daozu, Tumen Daozu, Fengbo Daozu, Mengyu Daozu, you dare to chase and kill me, now that I'm out, it's time for me to chase and kill you. Yi Tian said coldly. Before, he was not strong enough to deal with the incarnations of Taoist ancestors. But now, he has cultivated the Juji true body art to the 7th pole, and his strength has skyrocketed a lot, which is far from being comparable to before. In addition, he has also perfected the blood river real body, divine power, destroying the gods, the 3 elements in one, and the void movement, all of which have been perfected, and they have been regarded as middle-grade original supernatural powers, and they have all been cultivated to the limit realm. Gen Kong, the source of divine power, has been perfected to a level comparable to that of the top middle-grade source divine power, and has also been cultivated to the limit. It is very difficult to cultivate the source supernatural power to the extreme realm. If you want to spend a long time, even if the true monarchs created the original supernatural power, few people cultivate it to the extreme realm, but Yi Tian has practiced it in such a short time. Of course, this cost him another heavenly soul pill. Besides, Yi Tian has created another original supernatural power, Yin-Yang Bipolar Saber. The yin-yang bipolar saber is the original supernatural power created by combining the yin-yang Dao and the Dao of the blade, and once created, it is directly comparable to the middle-grade original supernatural power, and has great potential. The yin and yang bipolar sword is an attack on the source supernatural power, which greatly increases Yi Tian's strength, moves silently, and instantly destroys the enemy's body. Even if the defense is very strong, it is probably difficult to block Yi Tian's yin and yang bipolar sword. It can be said that Yi Tian doesn't know how strong he is now. He really wants to meet the incarnation of Daozu Lanyu and fight with them. Ask for flowers. It's a pity that he couldn't find the incarnation of Lanyu Daozu and others. Before, Yi Tian did cast the infinite immortality technique on the Taoist incarnations, leaving traces on them. However, for the true monarchs, the infinite void life technique is still relatively difficult to discover. It is a supreme tracking secret technique, but for the powerhouse above the true ancestor, this magical power is relatively weak and can be easily discovered. And the incarnations of Taoist ancestors can easily find the imprint of the infinite void life technique, and can easily remove the imprint. At this moment, Yi Tian couldn't sense the mark, and it must have been released by the Taoist incarnations. In other words, Yi Tian can't find the Taoist incarnations now. I can only let the true monarchs of Zushan Temple pay attention. Once you find Daozu Lanyu and others, notify me immediately. Yi Tian secretly said. As for whether the true monarchs of the Zushan Temple will help, he is not worried at all. After all, he is now very powerful in the Zushan Temple. The first true monarch on the true monarch list plus the Daozi status, other true monarchs naturally dare not offend him. So, Yi Tian all sent messages to the true monarchs of Zushan Temple. Immediately, the true monarchs of the Void Heaven Palace learned of Yi Tian's message, and they were all shocked. After all, Yi Tian dared to investigate the incarnations of Taoist ancestors. What was this for? Many people speculated that Yi Tian had a grudge against these four great ancestors, and wanted to trouble them. Some true monarchs think that during this time, Yi Tian disappeared, and as soon as he appeared, he looked for the incarnation of the fourth great ancestor. Could it be that he was chased and killed by the incarnation of the fourth great ancestor before, forced into some special ruins, and only came out recently? Somewhere in the battlefield ruins. Shu Tian Daozu quickly learned the news about Yi Tian and couldn't help but smile. My little apprentice is not too timid. I dare to ask Daozu incarnation trouble, but with his talent and potential, there is still hope to defeat Daozu. Avatar. Others don't know Yi Tian, he naturally understands very well. Tianjin can achieve the unity of spirit, and obtain the ticket to enter the Taoist ancestor in advance, without any means of ancestor monument, will be promoted, and he will be a detached person. With the increase of many backgrounds, Yi Tian's ultimate limit at the true monarch level far exceeds that of other true monarchs, and even he does not know what level Yi Tian can reach. Therefore, he was not worried about Yi Tian at all, but felt that the incarnations of the four Taoist ancestors were a little troublesome. Chapter 995 The Ruins of the Splitting Heaven Sect. In a flash, half a year passed. This day, Yi Tian had just finished scraping a ruin when he received a message from a true monarch in the Zushan Temple, and the content of the message was about a Taoist incarnation. The news of Tumen Daozu is really good news. Yi Tian was overjoyed. Among the four Daozu incarnations, the one Yi Tian wanted to kill most was the incarnation of Tumen Daozu. First, the relationship between Tumen Daozu and Zushan was very poor, and the two sides belonged to an enemy relationship. Second, Tumen Daozu was the first to chase and kill him. According to the communication from the true monarch of the Zushan Temple, the Taoist Tumen was in the ruins of a power. Since the true monarch did not dare to approach, he did not confirm the situation of the ruins, nor did he know how many Taoist incarnations were there. Men Daozu killed, 293, at will. But the true monarch recorded the location of the relic of the power and sent a message. Yi Tian can completely go to that power ruin based on the location coordinates. Generally speaking, such relics of power are difficult to break through, and it will take a long time. In addition, it will take some time to reap the benefits of the relics. Previously, the reason why the incarnations of the four great ancestors ended their exploration so quickly in the Chelong Dojo was because the Chelong Dojo was destroyed, otherwise the incarnations of the four great ancestors would probably stay in the Chelong Dojo for a long time. Go directly to the relic of the power. I hope that while killing the incarnation of Tumen Daozu, I can also have a big harvest. Yi Tian was so looking forward to it. Battlefield ruins, sky-splitting sect ruins. This is a lower third-level power, but it is not weak, second only to the middle third level power, because the splitting faction is the top triple level power, and it is not too far from the middle level 3 level power like the fourth level heaven. Under normal circumstances, an ordinary Taoist ancestor plus hundreds of true ancestors can be called the triple heaven power. In the chaos, many Taoist forces, that is, the top forces, can be regarded as the three-layered forces. But splitting the sky is different. It not only has one Taoist ancestor, but multiple Taoist ancestors, and the number of true ancestors is far more than hundreds. Nowadays, many people have a general understanding of the power composition of the domain, and have a certain understanding of the splitting heaven sect. Therefore, after the ruins of the splitting heaven sect were exposed, some Taoist incarnations came here. However, there are too many opportunities in the battlefield ruins, so only a few Taoist incarnations came here, and one of the Taoist ancestors was the Tumen Taoist. At this moment, Tumen Daozu stood in front of a large formation and was studying the formation. And there is a stone tablet in the big array. This is not an ordinary stone tablet but a Taoist enlightenment tablet. A tablet of enlightenment is very rare in the chaos, but this tablet of enlightenment is not ordinary. It is a very top tablet of enlightenment, and it can even have the effect of improving the understanding of Taoist ancestors. Many Tao enlightenment monuments in the chaos are too low level, and if the cultivation base is high, they are useless. Enlightenment monuments suitable for true ancestors are extremely rare, let alone such enlightenment monuments that are useful to Tao ancestors. Such a top-level Taoist enlightenment monument is undoubtedly a treasure for a force, and its value is even much higher than a Taoist weapon. There are many opportunities for the ruins of the sky-splitting sect. The damage to the ruins is not very serious, so a famous Taoist incarnation came here, constantly cracking the big formation, plundering the opportunities here, and even some true monarchs come here to join in the fun, but only dare to collect some from the periphery. Just chance. The real core benefits are all attributed to the incarnations of Taoist ancestors, and the Taoist ancestors of Tumen chose this Taoist enlightenment monument, and other Taoist ancestors would not come to snatch him. It's almost time. I have already analyzed 60% of this great formation. In a few years, I will be able to complete the analysis thoroughly, so as to decipher the great formation and take away this top enlightenment tablet. Tumen Daozu said excitedly. However, what Tumen Daozu didn't know was that he had been targeted by Yi Tian. Of course, even if he knew about it, he probably wouldn't care, because in his consciousness, Yi Tian couldn't kill his incarnation at all, and it was not considered a threat. Arrive. Yi Tian traveled constantly, and even used several small worlds to complete the transfer of the Great World, and finally quickly arrived at the ruins of the Splitting Heaven sect. After all, the repression of the battlefield ruins is too great, and the speed of the true monarchs is too slow. It is impossible to cross the infinite territory just by tearing apart the space, just like in the realm of Quasi-Dao. The ruins of the sky-splitting sect are so big. Yi Tian looked at the heaven-splitting faction that couldn't see the end, and muttered. Originally, the sky-splitting sect should be protected and hidden by the mountain protection formation, but now the big formation is estimated to have been cracked by many Taoist incarnations, so the entire sky-splitting sect can be seen at a glance, and countless buildings are standing on the ground, and the core buildings are located in the sacred mountains, each of which is extremely magnificent and majestic. Yi Tian is the preparatory peak master of Haifeng Mountain, and the introduction about the Splitting Heaven faction can also be found from the book Space. As far as he knows, the Splitting Heaven sect is one of the decent factions. It is very powerful, and it is attached to a third-level power, and its background is relatively deep. At its peak, the Heaven-splitting faction had more than 2-digit Taoist ancestors, and was almost promoted to the third-level power. As for the standard of promotion to the third-level power, Yi Tian is not very clear, but it must have something to do with the peak combat power. No matter how many ordinary Taoist ancestors, it is estimated that there is no way to be promoted to the third-level power. Such a powerful heaven-splitting faction is stronger than the Zushan lineage, and it has so many opportunities. It is a pity that such a powerful force has now become a relic. I don't know if anyone from the sky-splitting faction survived, but even if they survived, 5.8 should have paid a heavy price, and they must still be sleeping. Even a force like Black Wind Mountain didn't show up. Quote. Yi Tian thought so. Wow. Yi Tian flew into the ruins of the Splitting Heaven sect, looking for the traces of the ancestors of the Earth Door. This time, the incarnation of the Taoist ancestor who entered the ruins of the Splitting Heaven sect is definitely not the only one. Therefore, Yi Tian did not dare to use his divine sense to scan the entire ruins of the Splitting Heaven sect. Chaste. Therefore, Yi Tian could only use the pupil technique to look at the areas, looking for the incarnation of the Taoist ancestors. And it takes a little time. Because Yi Tian didn't look for opportunities and didn't crack the big formation, the speed of the investigation was very fast, and he found out in a short while. Finally found the incarnation of Tumen Daozu. Chapter 996 The Incarnation of Zan Daozu. Yi Tian discovered Tumen Daozu, and the other party was silently analyzing in front of a large formation, engrossed in it, not even paying attention to the outside world. This is the self-confidence of the Taoist incarnation. I believe that no one dares to assassinate them. Even if they are assassinated, there is no way to kill them with one blow, so there is no need to observe the surrounding situation. Yi Tian came to his vicinity, but he didn't find it. Yi Tian also did not plan to assassinate and attack the incarnation of Tumen Daozu. He was prepared to fight with the incarnation of Tumen Daozu with integrity. Assassination was not his style. Tumen Daozu! Yi Tian shouted loudly. Hearing Yi Tian's voice, Tumen Daozu's comprehension analysis process was affected. He frowned suddenly, looked at Yi Tian, and immediately his face was ecstatic, saying, "Yi Tian, you dare to appear in front of me, this time you are dead." Without further ado, Tumen Daozu immediately shot, and the moment he shot it, it was a brand new Dao weapon. True monarchs cannot use Dao tools, because the true monarch does not contain Dao power, and the true ancestor more or less contains the power of the true ancestor, which can appropriately replace the Dao power, so the true ancestor can use the Dao weapon but the true monarch cannot. However, the incarnation of Daozu uses Dao power, so the incarnation of Dao 29 ancestors can also use Dao tools. Before, the incarnation of Tumen Daozu did not come with a Daoist device. After all, the price paid for carrying a Daoist device was very high, but now there is a Daoist device on the body of the Tumen Daoist. Obviously, Tumen Daozu has gained a lot in the past 100 years, and he must have obtained a lot of Dao tools, so his strength is stronger than before. It is precisely because of his stronger strength that Tumen Daozu has the confidence to suppress Yi Tian easily, and once he suppresses Yi Tian, he can obtain the treasure of chance on Yi Tian, so he is so excited. Void Lock, Town. A strange ancient lock appeared in the void, blocking the void around Yi Tian. This is a Taoist tool that specifically blocks the void, and even the half-step true ancestor who possesses the spatial origin divine ability cannot break the blockade and leave here. Tumen Daozu didn't want to repeat the same mistakes, worried that Yi Tian would leave the space silently like last time, so he used the void lock he had obtained to seal the void. After blocking the void, Tumen Daozu breathed a sigh of relief, as if he was no longer worried about accidents. Yi Tian, hand over all the treasures, and then serve me, I don't have to kill you. Tumen Daozu said coldly. Although he also wanted to kill Yi Tian, if Yi Tian was controlled by him, it would be equivalent to controlling an enchanting genius, and he could even suffocate the heavenly Dao ancestor, and he could also use Yi Tian to do something. Of course, Yi Tian must be killed in the end. After all, no matter how he controls it, if he loses control one day, a genius like Yi Tian is too terrifying, he dare not keep Yi Tian. Roll. Yi Tian responded coldly. In fact, Tumen Daozu blocked the void just as he wanted, so that no one would disturb the battle between them. In an instant, the two were fighting together. Boom. Touching a knife and a spear, the incarnation of Tumen Daozu was directly shaken and flew out, and even the body of the incarnation was faintly about to be shaken apart. If he hadn't refined a defensive Taoist weapon, this time he fought, I am afraid he would have was hit hard. How is it possible? How long has it been since then? How can your strength become so strong? You are still a true monarch, and it stands to reason that you should have reached the pinnacle of true monarchs long ago. If you don't break through to the half-step true ancestor realm, your strength cannot be improved. That's right. Tumen Daozu was extremely puzzled. Yi Tian in front of him was simply abnormally powerful. Even if Yi Tian possesses a strange object, it is impossible to be so enchanting, which simply broke his cognition. Yi Tian did not respond to Tumen Daozu, but launched attacks again and again. Yin-Yang Sword, cut. The Yin-Yang Dao and the Dao of the blade merged into a ray of grey sword light, which instantly ripped apart the void and slashed towards the Tumen Daozu. Shout out. Tumen Daozu didn't have time to dodge, and one arm was cut off directly, not just cutting off an arm, the power of the Yin and Yang swords still remained on the wound of Tumen Daozu, preventing him from recovering. In other words, in a short period of time, the arm of Tumen Daozu could not heal at all. This knife wounded the Taoist ancestor. Shocked. Yi Tian once again used a primordial supernatural power, and it was his strongest primal supernatural power. Boom. The void vibrated, and even the void lock trembled, as if it could not suppress the void at all. Tumen Daozu was injured again, and was directly injured by Junkong, and the whole person kept coughing blood and retreating. Although the incarnation of the Taoist ancestor is an incarnation, it is actually the flesh and blood decomposed from the body. Therefore, the incarnation of Taoist ancestors looks no different from normal creatures. Being able to make Daozu incarnate to cough up blood is already a serious injury. Death, even if the consciousness is weak, I will kill you. Tumen Daozu was completely angry. As the incarnation of Taoist ancestors, his body does not contain much soul power. Once he uses his soul consciousness to attack, his soul power cannot be replenished, and he will become weaker and weaker. Therefore, Taoist incarnations never use soul-conscious attacks. But now, Tumen Daozu couldn't care about it. If he competed in strength, his avatar was 293 worse than Yi Tian. Even if his realm was much higher than Yi Tian, it wouldn't help. Spirit extermination, kill. The soul consciousness of Tumen Daozu turned into a small soul spear, piercing towards Yi Tian's soul. In the face of this attack from Tumen Daozu, Yi Tian did not panic at all, and instantly used the three elements in one. The physical strength and divine power turned into the power of the soul, and activated the soul defense half-Dao weapon plus the soul defense supernatural power. Boom! The spear of spirit extermination bombarded Yi Tian's soul defense, as if a fine steel spear pierced the fine steel shield. Although the fine steel shield trembled, it did not really break the fine steel shield. When Yi Tian's face turned pale, and his soul was not annihilated, the earth sect Taozu completely changed. Impossible, you are only a true monarch, and your soul has not been completely transformed, how could you block my spirit extinguishing technique? Tumen Daozu couldn't believe this scene. He used the spirit extinguishing technique again, but he still did not help Yi Tian. Instead, he used the spirit extinguishing technique for the second time. The consciousness of the soul was already gone, and the 100% of the power of transformation was probably achieved. At this moment, Tumen Daozu panicked. He doesn't want to fall. Once he falls, all the gains from his body will be gone, and the loss will be too great. Chapter 997 The Heavenly Splitting God Pillar. Yi Tian, let's reconcile. 1. Tumen Taoist ancestors passed the sound. He didn't want to fight with Yi Tian, otherwise his avatar would definitely be finished. His strength is not strong. Once this avatar falls, it may be a long time before he wants to condense the next avatar to enter the quasi-Dao world again. At that time, the chances of the battlefield ruins are estimated to have been developed. This is not the result he wanted. Therefore, he did not want to let this avatar perish. However, Yi Tian ignored Tumen Daozu at all and vowed to kill the incarnation of Tumen Daozu. Seeing Yi Tian's unabated offensive, Tumen Daozu was completely panicked. Yi Tian, you must be clear that this is just an incarnation of me. Do you really want to offend a Taoist ancestor? Tumen Daoist said coldly. Tumen Daozu, if you have the courage, then the real body will come. See if I am afraid of you. Yi Tian put down the harsh words. Tumen Daozu was in a hurry. If he can come in real form, does he need to talk nonsense with Yi Tian? In a short while, the incarnation of Tumen Daozu was completely shattered, and the remaining soul consciousness completely dissipated, and there was no way to leave the quasi-Dao world and return to the body. Of course, the great power of the Taoist ancestor is beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Even if the soul consciousness of the incarnation cannot be returned, the Taoist ancestor can know who the incarnation died at. In other words, Tumen Daozu must know that the incarnation died in Yi Tian's hands. Out of bounds. Tumen Daozu's tightly closed eyes suddenly opened, with a look of anger on his face, roaring, Yi Tian. His avatar has perished, which is too great a loss for him. Not only has he collected countless treasures for so long and lost his chance, but he has also lost the qualification to compete for the chance of the battlefield. Right now, he doesn't dare to condense his incarnation and descend to the battlefield ruins, otherwise his body will be seriously injured. At this time, he would not dare to let his body be severely damaged, otherwise he would easily fall. Damn, I can only give up the battlefield ruins. The fragments of the domain are huge, and the battlefield ruins are just one of the ruins. I still have a chance. Tumen Daozu thought to himself. Wow, Tumen Daozu's net worth is too rich. Yi Tian took a storage-type Taoist tool with the Taoist Tumen, and was shocked when he checked the countless treasures inside. When the incarnation of Tumen Daozu came, it must be very barren, but in a short period of time, he has collected so many treasures and resources, and there are dozens of Dao artifacts alone. In addition, there are many inheritance classics, secret techniques, and even Taoism inheritance has more than a dozen. It is conceivable how wealthy the Tumen Taoist ancestors were. Yi Tian has obtained all the treasures of the Tumen Daozu, and his net worth has skyrocketed. Receive. Yi Tian took the ownerless void lock. Although these Taoist tools cannot be used now, they can use such Taoist tools when he steps into the ranks of the true ancestors. Such Taoist tools are very useful, and their value is much higher than that of ordinary Taoist tools. Even Taoist ancestors do not necessarily have such a void-blocking Taoist-like device. Before, Tumen Daozu blocked the void, which also attracted the attention of some Daozu, but these Daozu incarnations were busy with their own opportunities, so they didn't come to check. But now, the blockade of the void is lifted, the aura of the Tumen Taoist ancestors dissipated, and Yi Tian appeared here, causing the other Taoist ancestors' incarnations to change. Tumen Taoist incarnation dissipated. Impossible. Yi Tian is just a true monarch, how could he be able to kill the incarnation of Tumen Daozu? That's the truth. Just now, the Taoist Tumen should have used the void blockade type Taoist tool, but I didn't expect the incarnation of the Taoist Tumen to fail. This disciple of Zushin Daozu is too powerful to be able to defeat a Daozu incarnation. Some Taoist incarnations want to kill Yi Tian very much, to seize the treasure on Yi Tian. After all, Yi Tian killed the incarnation of Tumen Taoist, the resource treasure plundered by Tumen Taoist incarnation must be on Yi Tian. Once Yi Tian is killed, the harvest would be greater. But Yi Tian was able to kill the incarnation of the Taoist ancestor, which is enough to prove that Yi Tian is even more difficult to deal with than the incarnation of the Taoist ancestor. It is not worthwhile to deal with Yi Tian, maybe he will fall. Therefore, none of the Taoist incarnations did anything to Yi Tian. Anyway, there are many opportunities here, there is no need to provoke Yi Tian. After Yi Tian killed the incarnation of Tumen Daozu, he did not leave this place. The ruins of the heaven-splitting sect were also a place of great opportunity. A little benefit here would be enough for a true monarch to gain infinitely. Such as this big array in front of me. This is the Enlightenment Monument. Yi Tian also saw the Tao Comprehension Monument inside the Great Formation, but immediately frowned. The level of this Great Formation is too high, he can't understand it at all, and he can't analyze it at all. Unfortunately, it's too early to kill the Taoist Tumen. If the Taoist Tumen finishes analyzing this Great Formation, and then takes action when he breaks the formation, I will be able to obtain this top Enlightenment Monument. Yi Tian sighed. However, even if he knew, he couldn't wait any longer, and would still take action immediately. The ruins of the Splitting Heaven sect have been discovered for a long time, the areas that are not covered by the Great Formation have basically been explored, and the real good places are covered by the Great Formation. Only those Taoist incarnations can hope to crack the Great Formation, and Yi Tian is only a true monarch. His knowledge, comprehension, and understanding of the Great Tao are far less than that of the Tao ancestor, so he cannot decipher the Great Array at all. Yi Tian waited for a few days, and after finding that he could not get the benefits, he thought of leaving here. But at this moment, a large formation in the central area of the sky-splitting sect relics was broken open, and suddenly a shocking divine pillar appeared on the earth, and then a series of divine lights radiated this area of the earth. This is the heavenly splitting God pillar. Yi Tian's pupils shrank and exclaimed. According to the information he knew, the heaven-splitting divine pillar was one of the 3 treasures of the heaven-splitting sect, and its value did not know how many times it surpassed the Tao tool. For a faction, it was a real strategic treasure. It can be said that the heaven-splitting divine pillar is too important for a force, and it can completely create a true triple heaven force. Without him, just because of the cracking force, one is to create a special space, the suppression of the middle and the time column, the ability to drink the body and soul, the light dot effect is enough to quickly increase the strength of the body and the strength of the soul. The second greatest ability is the inscription pattern. As long as it can withstand the power of the God-splitting pillar, the pattern of the God-splitting God can be engraved on its body. During battle, the ghost of the God-splitting God can be summoned to suppress the enemy. It is precisely because of the heaven-shattering divine pillar that the disciples of the heaven-shattering sect, with their promises, had no idea how many geniuses of the same rank were suppressed when they were roaming the outside world. The third great ability is the true ability of the heaven-splitting divine pillar, and it is also one of the trump cards of the heaven-splitting faction. Few forces know this secret, and High Function knows this ability. This ability is to assist the true ancestor to join the Tao, and the effect is similar to that of the ancestral monument, but it is not as strong as the ancestral monument. According to Mi Shin, the heavenly splitting divine pillar can help the 6 true ancestors get together, but once they join the Tao, it is equal to being restricted by the splitting heavenly divine pillar. Moreover, the heavenly splitting divine pillar is not the same as the ancestral monument. The ancestral monument cannot be refined. It belongs to the chaotic world. No one can control the ancestral monument, but the heavenly splitting divine pillar is only a weapon, so it can be refined and controlled. Therefore, refining the heaven-splitting divine pillar is equivalent to controlling 6 Taoist ancestors. From this, we can see how high the value of the heavenly splitting God pillar is. If any force obtains the heaven-splitting divine pillar, it can develop the force into a triple heaven force. Seeing the heaven-splitting divine pillar, Yi Tian squeezed his hands tightly, and an idea occurred in his heart, to capture the heaven-splitting divine pillar. Chapter 998 Grab it. Who wouldn't want such a treasure as the heavenly splitting divine pillar? Even his master, Zushin Daozu, saw the heaven-shattering divine pillar. Once he knew the usefulness of the heaven-splitting divine pillar, he would probably go crazy. Nowadays, there should be very few people who know the full capabilities of the heaven-splitting divine pillar. Those Taoist incarnations do not necessarily know that the heaven-splitting divine pillar can assist the Tao, otherwise the competition will be too great. Of course, the usefulness of the heavenly splitting divine pillar will be exposed sooner or later. But as long as it is not exposed now, Yi Tian has the hope of grabbing the heaven-splitting divine pillar. What is this treasure? An incarnation of a famous Taoist ancestor was attracted by the heaven-splitting divine pillar, and it was impossible not to be attracted, because the heaven-splitting divine pillar was born, and the movement was too great. Even if you don't know the heavenly splitting divine pillar, you know that this is a not simple treasure. The Taoist ancestor who had just cracked the Great Formation and let the heaven-splitting divine pillar come into being was the Taoist Linglan, known as the King of Arrays. A burst of law. But he never imagined that after cracking the Great Formation, such a treasure would appear in the world. Immediately, he wanted to snatch this treasure and hold it in his hands. However, the heaven-shattering pillar is connected to the earth, and the Qi machine is integrated with the heaven-shattering sect. If you want to collect the heaven-shattering pillar, you must first cut the connection between the heaven-shattering pillar and the earth, and then forcibly break the Qi machine between the heaven-shattering pillar and the heaven-shattering sect. Fusion. If the heaven-splitting faction was still there, the incarnations of Taoist ancestors would not even want to take away the heaven-splitting divine pillar. Break. Linglan Daozu strenuously slashed towards the connection between the heaven-splitting divine pillar and the earth. Boom. With one blow, the heavenly splitting divine pillar oscillated endlessly, but it did not break the connection with a single blow, at least it took several blows to completely sever the connection. At this time, other Taoist incarnations came here. Obviously, other Taoist incarnations also want to get the treasure of the heaven-splitting divine pillar. First cut off the connection between this treasure and the earth, then fuse it with the Qi machine of the splitting sky, and then snatch this treasure with strength. Whoever grabs it will belong to whoever gets it. A Taoist avatar suggested. Other Taoist incarnations have no opinion. After all, if this treasure is not separated from the sky-splitting faction, even if they fight fiercely, the final winner will not necessarily win the treasure. After all, there are other Taoist incarnations rushing over. In case other Taoist incarnations are cheap, and their most recent Taoist incarnations did not snatch the treasure, it would be extremely regretful. More importantly, they didn't want to fight too hard. If someone is powerful and directly robs the treasure, then there is no need to fight anymore. Go. Boom boom boom. A famous Taoist incarnation shot, instantly severing the connection between the heaven-shattering divine pillar and the earth, and also breaking the fusion atmosphere of the heaven-splitting divine pillar and the heaven-splitting faction, completely letting the heaven-splitting divine pillar come out alone. At this moment, the incarnations of Taoist ancestors all shot and snatched the heaven-shattering divine pillar. The fight has begun. I saw that a Taoist incarnation had just put the ordinary heaven-shattering divine pillar into the internal space, and several other Taoist incarnations joined hands to tear the fleshly body, cut off the connection between the heaven-splitting divine pillar and the internal space, and forcibly shook the heaven-splitting divine pillar out. The fighting was very tragic. A famous Taoist avatar was injured, and there were almost no intact Taoist avatars. Yi Tian was also not far away, but he didn't get involved in the first time, otherwise it would easily lead to the joint targeting of other Taoist incarnations. After all, for the incarnations of Taoist ancestors, this is their battlefield, and the participation of a true monarch in him is completely provocative to them. Moreover, the heavenly splitting divine pillar was snatched away by a certain Taoist incarnation, which only proved that the Taoist incarnation was powerful, but if it was taken away by his true monarch, it would undoubtedly hit all the Taoist ancestors in the face. The Taoist ancestors would not allow such a thing to happen, and would definitely target him all. Therefore, Yi Tian can only find an opportunity to participate. And this timing is not easy to find. Yi Tian keeps using the arithmetic of the great gods to calculate this timing. Although the level of the supernatural power of the great god arithmetic is not high, it can no longer keep up with Yi Tian's current strength, and it is difficult to deduce the battle at this level of Taoist incarnation, but if Yi Tian forcibly deduces it, he can still deduce some things, which is more casual than himself. Deduction or observation with eyesight is much more reliable, CJFI. Suddenly, Yi Tian figured out the timing, and when the timing came, without saying a word, he started directly. Move the void. Yi Tian's figure appeared on the battlefield, with one hand grabbing towards the heaven-shattering divine pillar, and at the same time performing the Black Wind Territory technique, covering the heaven-splitting divine pillar, pulling the heaven-splitting divine pillar into the universe at the fastest speed. The speed of charging the heaven-splitting divine pillar with the Black Wind domain technique is much faster than that of other Taoist incarnations. The reason why these Tao ancestor incarnations have been fighting until now, and did not put the heavenly splitting divine pillar into the body space, is because the charging speed is too slow, and other Tao ancestor incarnations have been interrupted before the collection is successful. And Yi Tian grasped the timing very cleverly. It happened to be the moment when the incarnations of the Tao Patriarchs shot, so these Tao Patriarch incarnations needed to slow down if they wanted to stop Yi Tian. In a slightly slower time, Yi Tian successfully brought the heaven-splitting divine pillar into the universe within his body. Escape. Yi Tian had just collected the heaven-splitting divine pillar, and without saying a word, fled directly, not daring to stay here. Even if he is very strong, if he is surrounded by these Taoist incarnations, he will surely die. The Blood River's real body was displayed, and various defense methods were displayed one by one. Yi Tian even displayed the three elements in one, and almost all the divine power was transformed into the physical strength, which enhanced the physical defense to the extreme. In this way, his life-saving means have been further strengthened. Court death. A famous Taoist incarnation was angry. These Taoist ancestors fought for the treasure, but in the end, the true monarch, Yi Tian, took the treasure away. This is simply hitting their faces, and they are still fighting in a fair and light manner, trampling on them ruthlessly. Boom! The power of sword light, knife light, fist light, and various origin magical powers rushed towards Yi Tian. No matter how terrifying Yi Tian's defense was, the defense was still broken. In an instant, Yi Tian's body was penetrated many times, and the whole person was almost exploded. However, after Yi Tian, the speed was much faster before, much faster than Yi's Taoist incarnation, and among the Taoist incarnations present, the speed was particularly strong, so Yi Tian left the battlefield at the first moment. And Yi Tian immediately burned nearly half of his spirit and energy, bursting into a limit speed, increasing the power of the void shift to a terrifying level, opening the distance from other Taoist incarnations. And just when the other Taoist incarnations were about to use various means to increase the speed, Yi Tian used the Black Wind Realm technique, contacting the small realm. His body broke through the void, and came to the small realm. The incarnations of Taoist ancestors did not stop Yi Tian at the first time. They had already missed the best time, and they couldn't stop Yi Tian at all. At this moment, Yi Tian had already entered the small realm, and with their strength, they could not find the small realm, nor could they enter the small realm. Chapter 999 The Sword Mark of the Supreme Tao Ancestor. What about people? An incarnation of a famous Taoist ancestor constantly probed with spiritual consciousness, but did not detect any trace of Yi Tian. It was as if Yi Tian had completely disappeared from the heaven and the earth, and there was no trace at all. Seeing that Yi Tian could not be found, the incarnations of Taoist ancestors stopped searching. They haven't realized the true value of the heaven-shattering divine pillar, so they are not too heartbroken. In addition, there are still many opportunities for the heaven-shattering faction, so there is no need to waste time looking for Yi Tian. Small realm. Yi Tian's figure appeared, and immediately coughed up blood, and the whole body was constantly cracking and healing, showing how badly Yi Tian was injured. It's an adventure this time. 1. Yi Tian muttered. He shouldn't have taken such a risk, but the value of the heavenly splitting divine pillar was too great, and he couldn't help it. Although the risk was great, but in the end, he won the heaven-splitting divine pillar, and the harvest this time was simply too great. With such a treasure, Yi Tian can completely cultivate 6 Taoist ancestors in the human race in the future. If 6 Taoist ancestors sit in the human race will inevitably become the largest family in the Tao world, and even the largest family in the Chaos realm. Even with the help of the heaven-splitting divine pillar, the human race can also cultivate a group of strong people. After all, the effect of the heaven-splitting divine pillar's auxiliary cultivation is also very good. Although it may not be able to help human geniuses advance to the true ancestor, it can guarantee their promotion to true ancestors. King's Row. This time the injury is too serious, let's take care of the injury first. Yi Tian sat cross-legged, took out a piece of healing elixir, and then urged Zue Junshan to recover from the injury. Under the influence of the Blood River Avatar, Yi Tian's injuries healed quickly, but the attack of the Taoist incarnation was a Tao power attack. Even if the weak Tao power is not an ordinary power, it is beyond the true monarch's divine power and true power. The power above the power of ancestors is not easy to expel and restore, and it takes a long time to restore. In the process of Yi Tian's healing, the formations of the Splitting Heaven faction were broken one by one, and many opportunities were exposed one by one. However, from the beginning to the end, the other two treasures of the Splitting Heaven sect were not born. However, the news about the three treasures of the Splitting Heaven sect has been continuously researched and gradually surfaced, and many Taoist incarnations have gradually learned about the usefulness of the Splitting Heaven pillar, and even know that the Splitting Heaven pillar can assist the way. Has cultivated a full 6 Taoist ancestors, plus the usefulness of their auxiliary cultivation, its value is not less than the ancestor monument. Suddenly, Yi Tian became the target of public criticism, and everyone wanted to take the heaven-splitting divine pillar from Yi Tian. Somewhere on the battlefield, Shu Tian Daozu also learned about Yi Tian's situation, and was immediately surprised. My little disciple is so courageous, he actually grabbed the heaven-splitting divine pillar from a bunch of Daozu incarnations. Speaking of which, I am a little concerned about the heaven-splitting divine pillar. Heart. However, he will not snatch the heaven-splitting divine pillar with his disciple. The most important thing is that the heavenly splitting divine pillar is not helpful to him. At his level, he has no interest in cultivating power, and he wants to go further. For example, Zushan's lineage, he has rarely managed, except for occasionally accepting a few disciples, he hardly appears in front of the world. But even if he was accepting apprentices, he didn't teach much, and he basically let it go. Except for 1 or 2 guidance at the most critical moment, he was almost in retreat or roaming the dark forbidden area at other times. My apprentice has a big opportunity, but don't worry about it, let's comprehend the sword mark in front of you. Zushan Daozu looked at the sword mark left in the void in front of him, and continued to comprehend. This is not an ordinary sword mark, but a sword mark left by a supreme powerhouse. Although it is still a sword cut by a powerhouse at the level of Daozu, it is much stronger than Zushan Daozu. According to a lot of information left by the fragments of the battlefield in the God Heaven realm, Zushan Daozu also knew the division of the strength of the Daozu level powerhouses in the God Heaven realm. The 4 levels of the initial stage, middle stage, late stage, and peak of the joint path are only the cultivation level, which is not the same as the division of combat power. The battle strength of the Taoist ancestors in the God Heaven realm is divided into Zhouzhongtian, which is somewhat similar to the division of forces. Most of the Taoist ancestors in the early and middle stages of the healing Tao are basically the first-level Taoist ancestors, and the first-level Taoist ancestors are also divided into the early, middle, late and peak of the first level. Some Taoist ancestors in the late stage of the combined Tao and the peak can be divided into 2-level Taoist ancestors. There are many Taoist ancestors at this level, and they are relatively common Taoist ancestors. Above it is the 3rd heavenly Tao ancestor, which is a relatively powerful Tao ancestor. According to the division of strength, Zushan Daozu estimated that he was the 3rd layer Tian Daozu, and should belong to a relatively powerful category among the 3rd layer Tian Daozu. But on top of the 3rd layer Tian Dao ancestor, there are also the 4th layer Tian Daozu and the 5th layer Tian Daozu. Ask for flowers. The strongest Taoist ancestor is called the 9 heavenly Taoist, also known as the invincible Taoist, and the 8th heavenly Taoist is called the strongest Taoist. Invincible Tao ancestors are extremely rare in the realm of the gods, and only one can be produced in countless eras, and the 8th heaven supreme Tao ancestor is almost sweeping everything. And this sword mark is very likely to be a sword cut by a supreme Taoist ancestor, and there are still some traces of the kendo of the supreme Taoist ancestor. Zushan Daozu walked the Zushan sword Tao, so this sword mark helped him a lot, and it might even help him step into the ranks of the 4th heavenly Daozu. Therefore, after he discovered this sword mark, he occupied this relic, and has been comprehending here, and will not be troubled by the trivialities of the outside world. It's still called Yi Tian, that kid, be careful in the future, don't make trouble for me to save him. Zushan Daozu thought so. Immediately, he sent a message to Yi Tian, and he continued to retreat and comprehend the sword marks. At this time, Yi Tian was still in the small realm, and could not receive the communication from Zushan Daozu. This time, it took Yi a year to heal, and it was still in a time-accelerating environment, and it consumed a lot of healing treasures. One can imagine the great influence of power on Yi Tian's injury. And after this fight, Yi Tian finally understood why many Taoist ancestors were injured once and needed a long time to heal, even deep sleep to heal. Because Daozu is not easily injured, once injured, it must be an injury that is difficult to recover. After the injury was healed, Yi Tian took out the heaven-shattering divine pillar, and he prepared to refine the heaven-splitting divine pillar, so that he could be completely relieved. The heavenly splitting divine pillar is not a Taoist weapon, it does not need Taoist power to refine it, otherwise Yi Tian will not be able to refine it. Strictly speaking, the heaven-shattering divine pillar is a special treasure created by a chaotic wonder, so even if Yi Tian has only a true monarch cultivation base, he can refine it into his own weapon. In this way, Yi Tian started refining, and heaven-splitting divine pillar is such a treasure, it takes a long time to completely refine it, so Yi Tian has time to form a large formation, so he won't waste too much time. As the days passed, the outside world was changing all the time, and Yi Tian's turmoil in grabbing the heaven-shattering divine pillar was gradually overshadowed by other events. Half-year later, the sky finally came out. Chapter 1000 The Dialogue of the Black Wind Mountain King. Finally successfully refining the heaven-shattering divine pillar. 1. Yi Tian smiled. At this time, the heavenly splitting divine pillar stood in the small realm, and the glorious divine power had already converged. Under the urging of Yi Tian, the heaven-splitting divine pillar created an area. This area is completely a cultivation area. Once you enter it, you can withstand the pressure of the heaven-splitting divine pillar. People can use this pressure to continuously temper their bodies and soul. Even Yi Tian, the owner of the heaven-splitting divine pillar, completely used the heaven-splitting divine pillar for cultivation. Try the training effect. Yi Tian walked into the cultivation area, and suddenly a terrifying coercion struck. The heavenly splitting divine pillar exerts coercion almost based on the cultivation base of the entrance, so there is no situation where the practitioner will be shocked to death. Under the pressure of the heaven-splitting divine pillar, Yi Tian ran the Juji True Body Art, and the training speed of 293 was much faster than the usual retreat, and even the soul was being tempered all the time. Time accelerates. Yi Tian activated the time formation within the heaven-splitting divine pillar, speeding up the time in this area. In this way, the cultivation speed is so fast. Of course, it takes a lot of energy to open the time formation inside the heavenly splitting divine pillar, and although the heavenly splitting divine pillar can also draw energy from the outside world, it is only enough to operate itself, and it is difficult to maintain the time formation, so a large amount of resources must be stored inside the split heaven pillar. Otherwise, the cultivator can only open the time array in the training area to temper the body and soul, but in this way, under the influence of the time array, the tempering effect will not be very good, but it is also better than usual practice. Much faster. But the most important thing is that you can comprehend other things in this practice area at ordinary times, and you can also temper your body and soul all the time. This is the most important way of cultivation. For example, comprehending secret techniques or origin supernatural powers here, the body and soul are growing all the time. What is this concept? It's just getting stronger when you lie down. From this, it can be seen that how many strong people can be created in the cultivation area made by the heavenly splitting divine pillar. Yi Tian didn't have time to practice now, so he closed the practice area, and instead urged the heavenly splitting God pillar to inscribe the inscription pattern on his body. The heavenly splitting God pillar is too difficult to activate. It is unrealistic for someone like Yi Tian to hold the heavenly splitting God pillar and fight the enemy, so it is better to inscribe the heavenly splitting God pillar's inscription pattern so that the phantom can be summoned to fight. The heavenly splitting divine pillar can generally be engraved with 3 grades of inscription patterns. The first grade is the ordinary inscription pattern, which can only increase the strength by 30%. The second grade is the God's inscription pattern, which can increase the strength by 10%, that is, it can increase the strength by 30%. Double your own strength. The third grade is the inscription pattern of the Tao, which can triple your strength. But under normal circumstances, the sky-splitting sect would not inscribe the Tao inscription pattern on the disciples at all, because this would damage the origin of the sky-splitting divine pillar, and it would take a long time to recover. However, Yi Tian didn't care about the damage of the heaven-splitting divine pillar. Anyway, this thing belonged to him, so he naturally had to consider it for himself. After engraving the inscription of the Tao, his own strength would be greatly improved, and his safety would be guaranteed. Therefore, he must inscribe the inscription pattern of the Tao. Boom! The origin of the heavenly splitting divine pillar is connected to Yi Tian's back, constantly transmitting a force to engrave lines on Yi Tian's back, and these lines gradually transform into the appearance of a small splitting heavenly divine pillar. After a long time, the inscription was completed, and the inscription pattern of the splitting god pillar gradually disappeared. Unless it was revealed during the battle, it would not be visible at all. It's time to leave. With the increase of the inscription pattern of the Lord Tao of God splitting God, my strength has skyrocketed. As long as I am not surrounded by a large number of Taoist incarnations, I should be able to easily get out of trouble with my strength. 1. Yi Tian is full of self-confidence. Immediately, Yi Tian left this small realm. But just after Yi Tian left, a voice resounded throughout the small realm. This preparatory peak master is not simple, his strength is very strong, he is stronger than when we were in the real monarch, and he was lucky, he even snatched the heaven-shattering sect's heaven-shattering divine pillar. I remember that the heaven-shattering sect also there are some Taoist ancestors alive, if they knew that the heavenly splitting divine pillar was taken away by our Haifeng Mountain's reserve peak master, would they be angry? Then, another voice sounded. The heaven-splitting divine pillar is not a good thing. Although it can create 6 Tao ancestors, such Tao ancestors are not as good as the first-level heavenly Tao ancestors. They are the weakest Tao ancestors and are useless to the major forces. I remember that the heaven-splitting sect once created 6 Taoist ancestors, and after the fall of these 6 Taoist ancestors there will be no more Taoist ancestors. It's not very useful to the splitting heaven sect, otherwise the Tao ancestors of the splitting heaven sect would not have placed the splitting heavenly pillar in the splitting heaven sect during the war. But for this little guy, the splitting heavenly pillar is still very useful. Yes, a real treasure. Wind King, your consciousness is awakened, and your body is awakening soon, right? It's coming soon, but even if I wake up, I don't dare to go out. Now this world is the realm of Taoism, and only when we become the realm of Taoism can we go out. Chaos Avenue does not allow people who violate the rules to appear. I'm afraid it will be severely backfired. We have been hit hard, and we finally recovered, but the source does not want to be hit again. Yeah, of the 10 kings of Haifeng Mountain, only 6 kings were lucky enough to follow the fragments of the realm to this new realm. The other 4 kings are estimated to have fallen in the realm battle. They are too far away from each other, and I don't know if there is a chance to return to the realm of the gods. 1. Why are you going back, if you can't find death? It's better to stay in this new realm. It seems that there is no real ancestor in this new realm. Maybe we have the hope of becoming a real ancestor here. Chatting and chatting, the voice gradually disappeared. If 5.8 Yi Tian heard this conversation, he would be extremely shocked, so there is really a Taoist ancestor in Haifeng Mountain, and he has been discovered by the king of Haifeng Mountain. However, he is already the reserve peak master of Haifeng Mountain, so the king of Haifeng Mountain will naturally not embarrass him. In fact, although the Black Wind Mountain is a bandit force, it is very united internally. This is the reason why the Black Wind Mountain can always exist in the domain, and it is also the reason why many forces are afraid. Battlefield ruins. Yi Tian was flying in and out of the sky, looking for a place of opportunity. As for the Split Sky sect, he did not dare to go there, for fear of being surrounded by other Taoist incarnations again. But, he only flew for half a day, and was stopped by 3 Taoist incarnations.